Hey everybody, Roar of the Lions UK, Matthew Turner alongside Anthony Fitzpatrick and Ashley Soden. We are going to be going live in just a sec. I am here very briefly. One, I've had no time to prep for this show, so I have no use to the guys. And two, after the holidays, I feel like absolute shit. So I will be here very, very briefly. Boys, how you doing?
I'm okay.
Yeah, doing good.
Good. You have a good couple of weeks. I did check in on a couple of shows, although I tactically missed one of them.
Oh, absolutely fine. Everything was hunky dory. No issues, no problems. We behaved. It wasn't too chaotic.
I did watch Ash's cut up of you guys reacting to DJ Reed being signed live, which was pretty cool that happened at the time.
It made a nice transition as well. We were just talking about TA and suddenly it popped up on my phone. And I was like, it was meant to be.
It was meant to be, had to be. Oh, what do you make of it all?
All the linebackers. We've got all the linebackers now.
It doesn't really feel like we have any room to draft anyone now. Kind of feels
True.
like it's the only position that's dead. Even quarterback is more in play than linebacker right now. Maybe.
And then we'll turn around and draft. Jihad at 28 and the world will burn.
That'd be fun. There's no way he's lasting to 28. No.
Yeah.
No way, no
So long as he does, I'll be happy. So long as he doesn't go to Philadelphia, then we're good. Because him on that defense.
They need D-line. I can't see them looking past D-line. They love drafting D-line. So give them the other Shamar that Ant doesn't accidentally call one the other one.
Oh, he's not going to last either. He's going top 10, haven't you heard?
Yeah, that's one of them, but not the other one.
The other one's going third round.
Yeah. Yeah, but just wanted to show my face and say hello. I am alive. I am here. I am present. I don't know what position group we've got slated for next week.
We don't.
Can't remember what we have left. Well, you didn't do any in my
DT.
absence, did you? Apart from did you? Did you do one in my absence? No.
No, because it was combine review and then it was free agency.
Okay, so in theory, after today's safeties, we've got O-line, DT, and quarterback, I think, in the 3 weeks that we have.
Sounds about right.
I have no idea which one we'll do. DT is probably the most fun.
Yeah.
Anyway, with that, I'm going to bow and I will count you into the audio pod. Is that cool?
Yeah, sure.
Okie dokie. Okay. I will turn the video off. There we go. All right. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. 3, 2, 1.
Recording in progress.
What up, though, One Pride? This is the Roar of the Lions UK podcast, the podcast where One Pride goes worldwide. My name is Anthony Fitzpatrick. I'm joined this evening by Ashley Soden, and this is another set of draft prospect position review shows. It will be our third. We're going to be talking today all about safeties, and safeties have a very rangy and long history on this show, something we love to chat about. We'll get to that in a bit, but first up, Ash, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good. Had a kind of nice break from sport this weekend with my team not playing any the Premier League because we played that game like 3 weeks ago. Instead, instead, I woke up at 4 to go open up my shop and I watched the Australian Grand Prix and all the chaos that was on Sunday morning. So it's been a kind of nice sort of weekend of relaxation from sport. Didn't even play any flag. So I know that was good. I know your team had a bit more of a aggressive match, shall we say?
Oh, you were up in Lincoln playing flag on
I
Sunday. Were you
was
not meant to be?
unfortunately I was not picked. There was too many. We have too big of a team now, so now we have to rotate. I'm like
Ash
Josh Pascal.
Soden dropped. Wow, we've got
I
our hit.
know,
We've
and then
got
the
a
guy that
headline.
the starter got 3 sacks as well. So next time it's my turn, I'm gonna have to live up to 3 sacks in 2 games. I don't know how I'm gonna do it.
Oh God, well, don't take any history lessons out of the Julian Aquara book of pass rushing for sure. Yeah, we were great. We went to Nottingham and Twank Notts County in their own home and put their aspirations for promotion on the back burner. So that was fun. It's our local derby, so it was a good weekend for us. And we absolutely twatted the Welsh in the rugby, which is just, oh yeah, celebration for all. For those who don't know, we don't like the Welsh when it comes to the rugby, and we just handed them one of the biggest beatings they've ever had in their lives. We dropped nearly 70 on them, so that was all good fun. Hope everyone is all right today. As always, if you've got any questions as the show goes along, just whack them in the comments there, and me and Ash will get to them as the show goes along, depending on where we're at. There's a little bit of news to go through, but then we're going to drop down into the safety prospect profiles. We've got 3 each, and then when we're done with those, if there's anyone else we've left out or not talked about, we'll have a little chat about them, and then yeah, we'll finish the show off with any questions you may have. So don't think anyone is in right now. I know Ash is in Twitch, so if you're on Twitch, we are on Twitch today. So feel free to put your questions in there as well. Colton Wood is in the building. Bob O'Lan is in the building as well. He says, Carlton goes, hello everyone, welcome back, Matt. Where is your shirt? Did you lose it in Vegas? He's responded to that one. But yeah, Matt did start the show with us, but he's feeling jet lagged and ill after his return from Vegas. So he's sitting out this one tonight, but he will be back next week. So the chaos will be over very soon. Bobo Land's in the building as well. Hope you are doing well, Bobo. Like I say, any questions, any comments, drop them in this evening as we go along. Right, let's get all the housekeeping out of the way, then we'll get to the news. So the Royal Lions UK Discord, if you want in on that, just let us know. We'll fire you across a link for that, especially coming up into draft season. There's a lot of good info in there. The College Football Podcast will be back with me and Ryan later in the week. We are in the midst of draft season at the moment, but everything is draft, so we're going to take you away from the draft stuff for a couple of hours at least. We're going to be talking about spring training in the collegiate football depths. There's a lot of big stories coming out of camp, changes on the depth chart, stories protruding from some of the biggest teams. So we're gonna have an evening talking about that, and we'll just a little less of the draft stuff and just to mellow it out just a little bit. So join us for that when we're on, and we'll also give you an update on the Lions Pro Day scene as well, because I've not had a chance to keep up to date with it at this moment in time because there's so much going on right now. But we'll go through that as well. Don't forget to like and share and follow all the channels, YouTube, Twitch, all that good sort of stuff. We really appreciate your support. It means everything to us. We're a part of Lions Nation Unite as well, so don't forget to follow that as well. Herman Moore's project to bring together a whole host of Lions content creators into one forum to talk anything and everything Lions. And don't forget, we're monetized on Twitch and YouTube and all that good stuff. So if you want to help us that way, great. But first and foremost, we just love having you all in the building with us. And we've got the feedback form as well. So any feedback you have on the shows or anything, fill that in. And of course, we will take it on board. Brent DeWitt is in the building. Hope you're doing well. Brent, he goes, congratulations, Michigan Wolverines, Big Ten tournament champions, go blue. Yes, but you finished second to Michigan State in the table. So, hey ho. Let's just say both Michigan teams are doing well. I think I saw the rankings. Michigan State is seeded second. Michigan is seeded fifth. So Michigan basketball is doing well. It's alive and it is prosperous. So sorry, where was I? Yeah, we've got all that housekeeping stuff out the way. Let's go into the news. And we were last with you on the main show last Monday when we did Free Agency Frenzy, which was good fun. Spent nearly 5 hours going through the early sleuth of deals out of free agency, and the Lions were able to get one in there as well, which was great. If you've not seen the reaction video Ash did, just drop onto our TikTok and you'll see the live reaction as we signed DJ Reed there. But we've made a few more signings since then. It's been slow and steady going, but we've got at least 3 new players in the building since then. So, in no particular order, really, in the order that we're given. The second player we got in free agency, the nose tackle, Roy Lopez, formerly from the Arizona Cardinals. He has been signed to a 1-year, $3.5 million fully guaranteed deal. His base is $1.33 million. Signing bonus of $2 million. He's got an active roster bonus of $10,000 per game, obviously up to $170,000 as well. And he's also got a potential of $1.15 million in incentives to do with sacks, playing time, and playoff appearances as well. So he can earn nearly 4.7 million this year if he fulfills all his obligations to the team. We also signed the linebacker Grant Stewart to a 1-year, $1.7 million fully guaranteed deal. And that's just, signing bonus 350 grand, base salary of 1.15 million. The cap hit for this year is 1.7 million. Special teams ace, probably going to be the replacement for Jalen Reeves-Maybin on this team. And of course, extra depth for the linebacker room as well. And then the third signing we made a couple of days ago, we got a new tight end 3, and potentially, y'all, we got former Temple tight end Kenny Yeboah coming into his 5th year in the league, formerly of the Jets. He is now in town. He's on a 1-year deal. His deal has not been announced just yet, specifically as to what it is, I do not believe, but he's going to be competition at least for that tight end 3 spot. Potentially, we might draft someone there as well for that competition. Who knows? But it's not been the crazy high spending deals out there, but as we always like to do with free agency, Ash, they're fleshing out the roster, finding depth spots. What do you make of the 3 new guys who are in the building?
How could you forget our new QB too?
Yes, I can forget him. I can forget him, and I have forgotten about him deliberately.
He's not QB2, but obviously Carl Allen as well has come in, the veteran backup quarterback who has had some good moments, but then was also beat out by Jeff Driscoll in Houston, which is, as we know, we've seen Jeff Driscoll. We've seen how bad of a QB he is, so it's not exactly a stunning indictment of his talents, but obviously I like the Roy Lopez signing. It would be a nice rotational piece with DJ Reader, as obviously he's getting a bit older. We don't have to run him into the ground now. We've got another nose tackle who can play consistent snaps, which I know is a bit of an indictment on the former 3rd-round draft pick, Gerard Martin. Seems this is a real kick up the arse for him now. It's like, right, we've had to sign someone now to fill the role that you're supposed to do. You've got to step up now, otherwise you're gone, which is a bit sad because obviously we traded up for him. We used a bit of draft capital, which I know we accumulated from the trade downs, but still, Brad picked out this guy to be the nose tackle of the future, and he hasn't quite lived up to that billing yet. Has a few issues with pad level. Maybe we need to get a good old Matty Patricia when he's done being a Ohio State coordinator to come and teach him some fundamentals. But yeah, this kick up the arse for him. It's a last chance saloon for Brad now with this signing. Yeboah just coming in to be competition for tight end 3. Got some special teams experience, which is always useful. Bit of a move tight end, though he does have a bit of blocking chops. Bit sad for him that obviously he caught his first career proper touchdown this past year from the evil man known as Aaron Rodgers. But, bit of an upgrade for him now coming to an up there Lions team. He'll be tight end 3. He doesn't have to do too much. He'll be heavy package guy, maybe some H-back packages as the fallback. Just competition for whatever we do at tight end. Still haven't brought back Zelstra, but we can assume he'll come back. Obviously, most people want to draft a tight end day 3, so he'll probably compete with whoever that is, and it's just camp body at max. And then Kyle Allen, he's just this year's Nate Sudfeld. It's just a clipboard holder. That's all he is. No indictment on Hendon Hooker at all. It's just a move we like to do. We've done it. And if anything, it's more for kick up the arse for Jake Fromm, who we still do have around. We obviously signed him to a futures deal a couple of days after our loss to the Commanders. It's more for indictment on him, maybe. Just another camp arm. Don't have to run Goff into the ground now in camp. So that's good. And then Obviously, I know we've done some re-signings as well, which is really good news. Some fan favourites to come back, as well as one of my favourite, obviously, players from last year, and then a guy who really redeemed himself last year.
Yeah, you're right. So there have been signings. The Lions been bringing back their own as well, most notably, and I'm pretty sure this deal wasn't done before we were back on last time, but Levi's deal had not been. Had Levi's deal been announced before
No,
we were last on? No. So obviously, yeah, Levi Onwuzurike has his new contract with the Lions, which I absolutely love that they were able to get him back. We're talking about developing and drafting your own players. It's been a long, slow process with him, obviously, because the injuries have not really been helping, but he had his one healthy year last year, and we said, right, what they need to do with him now, give him another year, make him stack back-to-back healthy seasons, and then give him the deal that he potentially deserves from that. And that's exactly what the Lions have done. They have signed him to a one-year, $4 million deal with $3.5 million guaranteed on the book. So it's a $1.5 million salary that's guaranteed, a $2 million signing bonus, and $500,000 total in per game roster bonuses for him. Cap hit is just going to be a smidge under 4 million for him next year, and with the vast majority of this being guaranteed, I don't think there's any questions about whether he's a fringe roster pick, whether they bring in a lot of guys. They're gonna roll with him again next year, and this feels like the very sensible decision to make with him. Ash, like you say, he's had a good year, he's been healthy. Sure, you can do it 2 years in a row, get rid of that biggest red flag that you've got, maybe notch it up a bit, just get a couple more sacks in there, and then get your money next year, whether it be here or elsewhere. But the Lions, I like this deal a lot.
yeah, so do I. Like, I completely agree. It's a sort of 1 year prove it deal, which it seems to be the Brad special. But yeah, if he does it this year, like we've got to remember the first couple of weeks before, obviously Barnes and Hutch went down, and Bob Davenport as well. Let's whack him in there. We were one of the best defenses, and he was a major part of that, playing big end, playing that free tech role, pass rushing from the interior. He played the most offensive line snaps for any player on the team last year. So yeah, nice little prove it deal. Obviously got himself a nice bit of guaranteed money. 3.5 of his 4 million is guaranteed, which is very nice for him. And yeah, proves it this year. He'll get the Javon Kinlaw contract, the one that he signed with the Commanders last week. That's the base for Levi, especially with the D tackle market, what it is now. Obviously, we've seen the Milton Williams signing, Javon Kinlaw, the Vikings signing Jonathan Allen and Jonathan Hargrave. DTs are a premium nowadays, and we managed to get one with very much high upside on a nice cheap deal, which is always good. And with Aline potentially not being back in time for the start of the season, Levi's got a starting role basically penciled in at this point, pending the draft. So it's good for him. He'll get to hit the ground running hopefully, and just prove the talent that we thought we knew he had when we drafted him in the second round all those years ago. Not to bring any flashbacks to certain people, but when I first joined the pod, it was when we just it was the pick before Levi, and then us drafting Levi, and obviously that pick before is now a stinky 49er instead of a Lion. So can't win them all.
You've just been mean to me there. That's just mean. You're making me relive that over and over again. That's one of the worst nights I've had, that is, generally, apart from when the Ravens took Travis Jones. That just sucked big time. So yeah, Levi's back. It's great. He knows the scheme. He knows the new DC. It's one less position to have to replace. You want to build on your roster, not replace your roster. And now this is one less hole we've got to replace for next year. Levi, Broderick, Reeder, Lopez, that gives us a steady stable of DTs to work with until Aleem's back, as you've said. So I love the deal. I think it's great. A few other deals been done this week as well, if we'd already done them by this point, I've said. But obviously Miles Adams, the D end, is back on a 1 year deal. He's going to be fighting it out for a position on the roster. Dan Skipper is back as well. He's on a 1 year deal. I don't know if the details of these are all out just yet. But yeah, our favorite sixth lineman is back, and I don't think anyone will begrudge him being back on the team next year. Craig Reynolds is back as well. Maybe surprising. He's got another 1 year deal, but we know that they absolutely love Netflix, or whichever streaming
Hulu.
service they're calling him now at this point. Hulu, who knows? He'll be Disney soon. But yeah, Craig Reynolds is back for a year. Maybe doesn't rule out still bringing in competition from the draft, but certainly he's going to have the inside track onto the running back spots after Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. Trevor Nowaski is back as well. Obviously, in behind Barnes at that Sam linebacker position. He will fight for a spot on this roster. Did well in small spurts last year. And then I know this is the one Ash wants to talk about, but his good buddy TP is back as well. His deal has not been disclosed as of this point in time, but he put a social media post out saying, I don't want to be anywhere but at Detroit, and the Lions apparently listened. I mean, it would have been awkward if they'd released him after that. But yeah, Tim Patrick is back as well, and again, not ruling out the potential of another outside receiver coming in, but at worst, going to be a good mentor for them in their first rookie year if they do so. So again, sort of filling out a lot of the depth positions here, Ash, bringing back a load of known and trusted faces. What do you make of all these guys?
Well, since you said it's the one I want to talk about, which I agree with, Tim Patrick being back's good news because that's the sort of last starting spot in inverted commas locked down now. Like X was the big position that needed to be filled with everything else basically there. I know obviously people might not be happy with Glasgow being a starting guard, but right now that's penciled in. We've got our starting 11 now, and we've got him a fairly reasonable deal looking at some of the other deals that have been signed around the league in terms of receivers. Not pointing any fingers, but aging slot receiver who went from LA to Seattle. What the hell? But it's nice sort of getting back. Doesn't guarantee him obviously he'll be here next year. It's a 1-year deal. Kind of prove it as well. Sort of proved it last year with the injuries he's got over them. So kind of like what we said with Levi. Prove it again, you might be able to get yourself a bigger payday either here or elsewhere, but just gives us that flexibility now that we don't have to force drafting an X receiver. We can wait and pick up someone like Ricky White at the start of day 3 and be absolutely set for the next couple of years. It's a nice position to put ourselves in. Same with the other re-signings. Miles Adams, I know, kind of low-key on the roster last year. We picked him up after that decimation on the defensive line, played a couple of games for us, rotated in, was a healthy scratch a couple of games, depending on situation. But again, Cam Body can fight it out, might come back on the practice squad. Dan Skipper is the new Don Moore back, it seems. He will be back time and time again until he wants to retire. Grace is a 6 offensive lineman, potentially upgradable as a starting, the sort of next man up as like the third tackle. Hopefully Manu can take that, or Sorsdal. Time again, there's someone else that needs to kind of prove it after being drafted and being held in some regard. Entering year 3 now, Sorsdal, someone else we need to see something from. Just filling out the depth nicely, and then we can go into the draft and the sort of next couple of waves of free agency after that, knowing don't have to force anything. We can let the draft fall to us. We can let free agency fall to us. If one of the other players that hasn't been re-signed yet wants to come back, was Darius Smith, for instance, we don't have to force it now. We've got a sort of nice set roster. We know basically we can head into the season. If it started tomorrow, we can head in feeling fairly confident, at least about our starting group. It's now the depth behind them that needs to be filled in. Corner, for example, obviously, I know we lost Kindle Vildor, which some people were happy about. I wasn't, because he was a good corner 5'6". We lost a couple of other guys, obviously Zeitler to the Titans. That's a bit of a hammer blow. But we can make do. We're not in the worst position, and at least we didn't splash out like other teams did in this free agency, on lower level talent. Looking at you, Green Bay paying a backup guard like God's amount of money, and the Bears spending, going from the second cheapest offensive line to one of the most expensive in one off season, and the Vikings spending a lot of money on defensive tackles who can't defend the run. We've done smart business, and I know some people won't like that. They wanted a big splash, but I'm happy with where we're at.
I mean, with the amount of deals we've got coming on the books, you've got to do smart business in free agency. As is always said, you don't spend your big bucks in free agency, you spend your smart bucks. Yeah, a few Lions have found homes. As Ash mentioned, Kevin Zeitler got a $9 million deal with the Titans for 1 year, which is pretty much fully guaranteed. I'm actually doing a video about this for LNU, but I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. I don't mind him going there for that price. I mean, this goes back to last year. The Detroit Lions offensive line is getting old. And we said last year that the plan needed to be to replace Zeitler this year, to replace Glasgow next year, and then to look at Taylor Decker the year after that, because he'll be coming up on the end of his deal and he'll be about 31, 32 by then. So you've got to have continuity on your line, but we can't just keep all these old guys and then replace three positions in 1 year. That does not make for good continuity. So I do not mind Zeitler going in the slightest. It means Mahogany's going to get his reps. And if he's a bedded in starter by this time next year, then you get rid of Glasgow, because then there's less pressure on Mahogany to do so. So I don't mind it. I think the Lions have done some good business and fleshed out their roster well. It's the draft where we get our big players. And of course, we got roster cut downs and stuff to go through yet. Going the season, we made some of our best signings through there. You know, we got Kamish through there. We got Charles Harris through there. We've got some good productive guys from roster cut downs. So a long way to go at this moment in time. Carlton goes, was Tim Patrick signed before last week's show? No, he wasn't, and I only know that because you would have seen Ash jumping around like Zebedee from the Magic Roundabout, like he's high on sugar, if he had have done. We did not see that, so TP, I definitely know hadn't re-signed by last week's show that we did there. Brett goes, I can see Tim Patrick getting 5 to 650 yards next season if he stays healthy. He was clicking with Goff. Maybe he can. Carlton goes, think we have 66 players signed plus 6 from the draft. We've got 7 draft picks. Then 3 or 4 start an IR. The rest will be UDFAs, free agencies, just to make up the 90, meaning no Zadarius, Mohammed, Zylstra, Neiman, etc. I don't know. I think there's plenty of room for those guys to come back. I think a lot of the guys here, potentially, there's some bubble guys still on this roster who might not make it. So I think we got a long way to go yet before this roster gets siphoned out. You just never know what move's going to come to move the needle for you. Just need to give a big shout out on Twitch. I am on there. Cool Down Rat has subscribed with Prime, subscribed for the 30th month in a row. That is approaching 3 years. Cool Down Rat, we appreciate the hell out of you. Thank you ever so much for your support. And yes, no Guinness on the show tonight, but that's because all the Guinness is in my belly from drinking it on Sunday. It's Monday night here. Drinking heavy on Monday nights is considered alcoholic over here. So I did my drinking over the weekend for Paddy's Day. So yeah, I've had plenty. Love the stuff. It's great. But having a night off tonight, just got some good old-fashioned coffee in the building there. But don't worry, we have celebrated St. Patrick. Very much so. And then also big shout out to Big Aries, who subscribed at tier 1 as well. Subscribed for 38 months. That is over 3 years. Bearing in mind this show we're coming up on our 5-year anniversary soon, so you've been pretty much there since day 1. So thank you ever so much, Big Aries 70. We again appreciate the hell out of you. He goes, let's go. Can't wait for the draft to see what Brad Hood has up his sleeve. Absolutely. The man is a magician. The man is a chef. He's getting ready to rip someone off big time for a great player, and hopefully might be Green Bay again. He seems to like doing that. Or the Vikings. Or the Bears. One of them. Who cares? We'll screw one of them over. We'll have better drafts than a lot of them. We've got 40 days until we find out, so not long to go at all. Carlton goes, I'm trading up. Paul Walker is in the building as well. He goes, boys, buzzing to be here live for once. Yes, Paul, who absolutely destroys our college pick watch every year and beats everybody and is just one of the biggest fonts of knowledge out there. Hope you're doing well, Paul. We appreciate you being in the building. Any other news you want to go through? I don't think there's anything else majorly that's come out this week, lines-wise. Or is there anything else you want to mention before we go into the prospects?
Well, obviously there was some of the podium interviews with the guys who re-signed. So
if you want to mention anything about that, go for it.
Well, Malcolm in Barnes' one was really cute. It was really nice. It's nice to see him using his journalism degree to good use, asking about the snack table in the linebacker room. It was just especially external ones. You can see why we signed him. So DJ Reed gave all the right answers. Obviously said it's between here and the Commanders. Commanders being because obviously he was in Seattle with Bobby Wagner. Bobby Wagner was kind of like the vet that helped him bed in, taught him how to properly prepare for games, how to rehab after. kind of hope now he can do that for Rakestraw and Terry and sort of pass on the knowledge, be the vet guy in the room. Roy Lopez, wow, him versus Malcolm in training camp, like who's going to be the best dressed cowboy is going to be interesting to see. They're going to have to really wrestle it out, and both as state wrestling champs, that'd be cool to see. And then, go out and should. Poole, like exactly these guys are coming in taking players' roles. So we've got the new vet corner, we've got the new wrestling champ on the sort of the defense. I mean, I've got the new best hair in the team. Alexander Loney's lost his title because Grant's hair. I'm jealous. I'm very jealous of those long flowing locks. Like I haven't had a haircut in 2 months. I have not got anywhere close to that and probably never will. So fair play.
I mean, I can't get involved in discussions about luscious heads of hair. I don't really have expertise in that role. I've forgotten what it's like. I would say Anzo's going to take something to top. We'll have to do a side by side and see who's better. But for me, Anzo's long blonde locks are going to be incredibly difficult to beat. So, we'll have to see how Grant Stewart phases out. And it's about how he looks playing the game. Anzo looks like a stone cold killer with his hair coming from his helmet during the game. If Stewart doesn't, then you got to take that into consideration. I tell you what, I did like the DJ Reed one. I love DJ Reed as a player, but I'm a small school guy. He's small school personified, a 0-star JUCO recruit who got drafted in the 5th round. Just goes to show some of the best players in the NFL come from nothing, and they're drafted from nothing. And don't ever discount your day 3 guys from being high-level starters in this league, and he is that personified, and he's got that humble approach to him as well. And of course, he ain't won a Super Bowl yet either, so hopefully that's going to rub off on the rest of them as well. So he's going to be very fun. But I love his roots and where he's from. It's completely it's completely my wheelhouse for players I love coming out of college. So yeah, cheers for that, DJ Reed. Carlton Wood goes, did you see Manu's training video? Yes, I did. It's impressive. He looks good, but again, talk to me when you're on the field doing it. Like training videos and montages can be as good as they want to be. You've just got to do it on the field and then put it all to bed. But I know he's training where Decker trains. Like quite a few of the guys go down to this particular place. So, it's Arizona, isn't it? So they go and get the sun. Which not accustomed to. When you finish the season playing in Green Bay, you're like, yeah, I'm going to go get some sun. Let's go train in Arizona. That'll be a lot nicer. That'll be a lot warmer, that will. So I don't blame him. But yeah, he looks good. Hopefully we'll get to see him a little bit more this year. It's year 2. Hopefully you'll see a few packages with him in. Maybe bring him in as that. Maybe phase skip out the team. That will be his role this year. If you can phase skip out, not that we want skip phased out, but Manu's going to develop. He's got to come in sooner rather than later, and that is the place where he's going to go. So, but yeah, we've seen him. He looks decent.
And we can now officially say we won the top of the draft battle between Hutch and Trayvon Walker, because some kind of roughly breaking news: the Jags are fielding offers for Trayvon Walker.
Oh, there you go. Oh, I mean, would you bring him to Detroit? That'd be the best part of it.
Yeah, him as the big end. Hell yeah.
Yeah, could you have Walker or Hutch? Have them both. I mean, I would say given their lack of, apart from Josh Allen who did really well there, but they don't develop their talent as well. Jacksonville, so maybe you can unlock him here. I think there's still a lot he can offer. So who knows? Maybe we just get him and we put this one to the test for real. See who can be the best when you put them head to head together. Right. I think that is. Carlton goes just in terms of Manu. Maybe play him at guard occasionally or 6th lineman. I do not want Giovanni Manu anywhere near that guard spot. Stop it. Stop kicking guys inside for the sake of it. He's gonna be a tackle dude. Let's just leave him there. Let's let him develop there. Let's not give him more on his plate by trying to get him to play as a guard as well. I want to see him there. It's Mahogany's role and Mahogany's only. Unless Glasgow's really awful next year and we don't get anybody in, then maybe.
Retain Muti.
Yeah, maybe. But Manu's like my 4th or 5th choice for guard behind Glasgow being utter rubbish next year. So no, not me personally. They could, they might. But I just don't think I would. I just want to keep practicing him at tackle and getting used to that. That's what he's going to be in this team for. Right. I think that's everything in terms of news now. So, if there's anything else that goes on throughout the evening, we will mention it. But we're going to dive down into the prospects now. Now, usually we got about 9 or 10 on the go because Matt's in the building as well. But it's just the two of us this week. So you're getting six. And I mean, to be honest, looking through this, the upper echelons of this year's safety class are a little barren compared to some years gone by, but still plenty of good value to be found. So we've got three apiece. So I will throw it across to Ash first, and we'll start off with his first guy without further ado. Unless very quickly, I think we did. I think you addressed it in the chat earlier. Carlton did mention about safeties. If we, before we do the prospects, if we were going to draft one this year, potentially as a safety 3, what kind of safety would we draft? Now, for my 2 cents very quickly on this, we have two safeties who are two of the best run defending safeties in this league. They are absolutely great at what they do. They're both ball hawks. They're great. We don't have one who can rush the passer so well. Bringing a blitzer up, and now obviously that's the iffy thing, and they're going to phase that role out. But if they are going to bring someone in, I would like them to bring someone in who brings that to the table, because I'd rather leave Branch and Kirby doing what they do best, which is great. I'll bring in a third guy. I'll bring in someone who could come and blitz the passer a little bit, especially as he's going to be down the depth chart, because it gives you things to do with him while he's not playing safety. That is what I'd do for my money. I don't know. What about you, Ash?
Yeah, I agree. I'll bring in like a kind of box safety. Like Kirby has got single high lockdown. If he's healthy, he plays 100% of the snaps. So you don't really need a guy to rotate and do that. It'd be useful if they can do it, just because it gives you that positional versatility. Teams won't know what you're doing, because Kirby, that's one of the good things about his past jerseys. He's shown that ability now to defend the run, do that kind of thing, because that was always his weakness. Going back to when we drafted him and I did the prospects review piece on him, run defense was his thing, because he hadn't really done it before. It was his second. He's last year at Illinois, his first real year at safety, and you could tell he would just sit there and do coverage, not really come down. That's why it's improved. That's good. Branch is the ultimate versatile weapon. He can do single high, he can play the slot, he can play in the box. So just having someone that can be that true box safety, like if he was supposed to be, where he can blitz, he can run defend, but it's not to not to rag on Iffy, because I do hope he has a decent career now with the Dolphins, but he was like a train tracks. You point him, you shoot him. If anything went outside of that sort of train tracks, he was done for. He couldn't really cover. I know, obviously, he did have flashes. The NFC North sliding interception a couple of years ago on Christmas Eve brings to mind, but for the most part, he was just a point and shoot safety. But someone who can, play in the box, cover tight ends, cover running backs out the backfield, offer a bit of blitzing ability, but still have the sort of versatility to drop back into like a single high or split shell safety kind of look if we need to. That's what we're looking at. And luckily, to spoil kind of my three guys, they can all kind of do that at least.
One thing I've learned about the safeties this year is that there's not many true safeties. A lot of these guys play all over the show, so the art of the true safety is dying out quite a lot in college at the moment. So, but we will get to them very briefly. Lisa's in the building. Hope you are doing well, Lisa. Good to have you in as always. We've got Rich Baldwin in the building as well. Hope you are doing well. He goes, hello, gents. Do you think the Lions will trade up in the first round to get one of those top edge rushers? Let's answer this one quickly before we go into the safeties, and then the question will not be waiting too long. Obviously, Brad's MO, going up to get the right guy, not a guy. Trading up always seems like a big possibility with him, especially in the edge market this year. If there's, deflation of the position, a lot of other positions picked before them. I don't know. What your spidey sense is telling you about a potential trade up this year?
Not in the first for an edge rusher. I think at least in the first, we'll do what the Ravens do seemingly most of the time in the first round. I know obviously they traded back into the first Lamar when they did, but for the most part, they just sit there, let the talent fall to them. That's how they got Carl Hamilton, who's one of the best safeties in the league. That's how they got Tyler Lindenbaum, who's one of the best centers, not called Frank Ragnow. I think we can just sit there, let the board fall to us, because there's going to be a good guy fall to us, whether it be Nick Scoughton, because everyone doesn't believe in his developmental upside, whether it be Jack Sawyer, if that's who they want, because people don't think he's got enough, he's reached his ceiling, does have much more to give. If it's someone like Mikael Williams who falls because of the foot injury, if it's Mike Green or James Pearce, if he passes our character concerns because they're falling because of that. I think we can stay put at 28. Hell, even trade back a couple of spots and pick up one of those early day free picks to fill in the gap and get the edge we want that can come in and offer stuff on day one, just because the D-line class is really, really damn deep. So we don't really need to jump up. There's not like a standout. Oh, well, other than Abdul Carter's not really a guy that's, jumping out like we need to get him. The difference between edge 2 and edge 10 is actually not a lot this year, in my opinion.
Yeah, for me, it depends how many they like. Brad's thing is he likes his players. Like, if he's got 3, 4 edge rushers he really likes, I think the odds of him trading up are slim because, like you say, one of those guys will fall to you. If there's only one of them he truly loves and they start to slide a little bit, I think there's a possibility he might go in and do it. I'm not saying anything past 20. I think it would be marginal if someone slips past 20, because then when you're going up, you're giving away a fourth at the most or something. You're not giving up uber big capital to get up there. But I think it's slimmer than usual. But if it is, I don't think it's going to be big. I think it's going to be 5, 6 spots max. Like I say, if a couple of these guys fall. But if there's only one guy he ends up really loving from this class, then he'll go up however far he wants to for him. That's what he does. But yeah, I don't think it's as likely. So yeah, that's where we're at with that at the moment. Rich goes, I'd like for the Lions to get James Pearce Jr. I would not mind James either. I've not seen enough with this character concern shit made up about him to say that he's written off our board just yet. But he's hella talented. I know that much. So a lot of these guys I really wouldn't say no to as long as we get one. Just really want one. We really need someone opposite Hutch. Just not Shamar Turner, please. Right, anyhow, let's I had to get the dig in and I got the right one. Lisa goes, I don't think the Lions have Pearce on their board. Oh, is it Turner? No, it's Shamar Stewart. Damn it, I got the wrong one. Sorry, Shamar Turner. I don't mind you. You're good. Shamar Stewart, sorry. I should tape it to my head. I don't know about this stuff with James Lease. I don't think this is not. Again, this is nothing substantiated here. Apparently, he's a little bit of a hothead. Hotheads, that gets beaten out of them in an NFL locker room the second they arrive. There are very few rookies who are hotheads and stay hotheads. It's just not the environment you're in. You're very quickly, especially in a locker room like the Lions. I don't think that, again, I've not seen anything from him to suggest there's anything that's going to take him off this board, really. So I think he's in play completely. And I'm just loath to write off everyone who says, oh, he's got character. Prove it to me, and then I'll believe you. But until then, no, not going to. Right, anyway, let's get into these safety prospects because we've got 6 to get through this evening and then a few others as well. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Ash. Who are we looking at first in this year's safety class?
That would be the Clemson safety who wears number 9 for them, which is R.J. Mickens. So he is 6 foot, 199 pounds, and he is a 23-year-old senior. He spent all 5 of his years at Clemson. His RAS, 8.45 free safety, but 8.66 at strong safety because they like to split them up and they're slightly different numbers. His PFF grades this past year, 87.5 defense overall, 69.2 run defense, 72.9 tackling, 57.7 pass rushing, 89.8 coverage, and 61.7 special teams. He played 751 defensive snaps, so 300 of them were in run defense, 439 in coverage, and 12 as a pass rusher. 3 of those snaps came on the defensive line outside the tackle into sort of like 9 technique, 312 in the box, 338 at free safety, 88 in the slot, and then 10 at wide corner. This past year, he got targeted 29 times, allowing catches on 72.4% of those targets for 4.8 yards of reception, 1 touchdown allowed, but 5 PBUs, 2 interceptions, and a 59.6 passer rating allowed. He had 55 solo tackles, a further 18 that were assisted, but he did miss 11, which is a 13.1% missed tackle rate. He made 26 run stops and got 0 forced fumbles. He also, on his 12 pass rushing snaps, got 3 pressures, which were 2 QB hits and a hurry. He did not concede a single penalty on defense, which is good to see. And then on special teams, he played 66 snaps, but got no tackles or penalties. So the game I watched for him was the playoff game against Texas, which is a 63.0 defensive grade from him, PFF, 64.3 run defense, 57.2 tackling, 63 pass rush, 59.3 coverage. In that game, he played 75 snaps, 43 of which were run defense, 31 coverage, and 1 pass rushing. On that 1 pass rush, he got a QB hit on Quinn Ewers. He also made 9 tackles, all of which were solo, missed a further 2, and made 3 run stops. And in coverage, he was targeted 3 times, and he allowed 2 catches for 25 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. So in coverage, he knows what he's doing in there because of his 5 years playing. He's got good understanding of schemes. He knows what he's looking at, and he's able to read stuff really well. So early in the game, he reads a screen to one of the wide receivers really well, but just misses the tackle due to some poor technique, which we'll come on to in a minute. Because let's just say he tackles like Tracy Walker did. If you remember how he tackled sometimes. He got his inception by snagging a bobbled catch from the tight end. So the tight end brings it in, going to the ground, he loses the ball a bit, sort of pops it up, bobbles it, and he just gets it. It looks like a pick 6 on tape, but then you see he just steps out of bounds, and there's an illegal block in the back anyway that brings it back. Then Clemson were able to get a field goal out of that. So a bit sad for him to turn that 6 into a 3 in a way. He also got an uncredited PBU on the tight end where he broke up the pass. So he was in the strong safety alignment, kind of robber sitting there, sees the tight end coming across in the in route, goes and gets it, just bats the ball away, kind of like I've just done to my mic there. And then he also had a really good tackle after crashing down on a quick tight end curl, gets there, wraps the guy up for no yak, which is always good to see despite the size difference. And in run defense, he's really quick to trigger and crash down, but sometimes takes bad angles and then gets walled off from the play by some blockers. And then there were 4 different instances where he just leaves his feet, just flies into the tackle and just completely misses. He just tries to become a missile, get them down, and if he misses, he's done for, which is why he's got such a high missed tackle rate of obviously 13% on his this past season. On a 3rd and short conversion, he chose the wrong gap. He goes for the A gap, and if he went in the B gap, he could have stopped the play and would have stopped the 3rd and short conversion. Instead, Texas convert and then managed to score a touchdown a few plays later. But there are some good plays coming against the run. So there's one where he's in the free safety alignment, single high. He reads the run, just sets his feet, gets ready, and then as soon as the back's there, just wraps him up really well, brings him down. And then he's also got a really good run blitz through the B gap later in the game where he's able to tackle Blue for a minimal gain, gets like 1 yard on a 3rd and 10, which is nice. And he did then also make a touchdown saving tackle later in the game on a really, really big run that could have been an extra touchdown. But then he also missed a tackle on Blue on a massive run on a 4th and 23 that turned into a touchdown for Texas. And he did vacate his zone to track a tight end about halfway through the game, which allowed you as a scramble lane to convert for a new set of downs. And his pass rushing, which you said you value, really, really good blitz from him against the sort of heavy package, 3 tight ends in, just gets through the tight ends as soon as they're out their stance, and he's able to get the hit on Ewers, forcing the ball out quickly for a short gain. And the general stuff, the stuff that's more like intangibles, the stuff that the Lions really seemingly value. He's a communicator. I think he was a team captain. You can see him talking to his fellow safety behind him, them trying to decide who's going to rotate down, who's going to go into single high from their looks, because Clemson usually like to come out into their defense as cover 2, and then usually one or the other will then crash down into cover 3 or quarters looks. Quite a lot of the time Mickens is there and then he goes into single high, but there were times where he'd rotate it down into the box as the robber roll, the other safety would go back and they'd play that cover 3 that way. So he's kind of communicator we need, and that's something we need on the back end. I know we've got DJ Reed as a veteran, Branch and Kirby have been here a while, but there were times last year where the communication between the secondary was just off, and it led to blown assignments and big gains for the offense opposing us. So someone who already does that, has it programmed into them to communicate, okay, I'm doing this, what are you going to do, would be very useful for us. So a comparison for him, and it's slightly lazy in terms of it's a former Lion, but I just watched Mickens as like, that's the kind of way he plays. Mickens is a taller Quandre Diggs. So they're both versatile safeties. Obviously, Quandre started here as a slot corner, eventually moved to free safety, and that's made his career there, especially with the Seahawks. Both are best as sort of a split shell free safety who can play in a box, can hit hard against the run, but also can miss some tackles. So Quandre has a 13.5% career missed tackle rate. Sound familiar? So that's a comparison for him. So that's what you're kind of getting from him if we do get him, that kind of split shell safety. Be good as a third safety using certain packages. So let's say we want to go heavy. So we're playing Packers and they've got both of their tight ends out on the field. So Kraft and the other guy. Branch can match up with one. Mickens can match up the other. You've got Kirby still in the single high. Perfect kind of role for him, earning him that way. And then if Kirby becomes too expensive to sign, you can then move Mickens full-time to single high, have a bit more position versatility back there, though Mickens doesn't have the physical upside of a Kirby. Like, I know he's got a very good RAS, but the speed just isn't there on tape. So Mickens is currently not on our consensus board, which sucks. But here on the mock draft database one, he is the 17th safety and the 233rd overall prospect. That puts him as a mid-7th rounder, which is way, way too low for me. So while Mickens does have some issues with his tackling, obviously high tackle rate both this year and throughout his college career, he does have the coverage ability and the football IQ to be considered either late day 2 for teams really needed for that kind of safety, or early day 3, top of the 4, like the 4th, early 5th rounder. And with some coaching, especially on that tackling, he could become a very solid starter in the league. Well, as I said, not having that physical upside to be a top 5'10" safety, he can still be a guy you plug and play into your defense, can do whatever role you need him to, and you'll be happy with it. So I'll be okay with us maybe looking at him at 1 or 2 if we need to. If we do take him, I won't be too upset, but positional value and perhaps the fact that there'll probably be higher ranked talent for me there available at 1 or 2 means we'll likely go elsewhere there. So it really is if we trade back at the first or something and get that sort of pick between 130 and 170. That's the kind of range I'm looking at him for.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. I have no idea why the league looks so low on him. Actually, weirdly enough, doing the work on Makuba has given me a lot more sense about Mickens, given they've both played there and what Makuba said about what goes on there. So I think he's ready. I think he's certainly what you would call draft diamond territory now, if you're able to do it. But I mean, he's got a pedigree as well. His dad was an All-American. Like, you know, you look at him and you're thinking, there's a very good player there in a team that's turned it around in the last few years with him. So yeah, I think Mickens, absolutely, he looks good. And I would be shocked if he's going at 230 in this draft. There are a lot worse prospects out there at that point. So we'll see. But yeah, that is RJ Mickens out of Clemson. All right, I'm going to go on to my first guy now, and we're going down or going up to Iowa, because who loves a good Iowa prospect? And of course, we're talking about Sebastian Castro. He is the 4-year Iowa Hawkeye. He is 5'11", 205 pounds, which for some reason RAS says is a very poor composite build for a safety. RAS and safety, they just don't get him. It just doesn't work. But hey ho, yeah. He's 5'11", 205 pounds, 4 years at Iowa. First year, special teamer. Second year, he broke into the rotation. The last 2 years, he has been a starter. He's played just shy of 2,200 snaps in college. So his stats over his collegiate career: 13 quarterback pressures, 3 of them are sacks, 2 are hits, 8 hurries, 166 tackles, 75 run stops, missed tackle rate about 16%. He's given up 115 receptions on 185 targets, which is just 62%, which for safety, decent numbers there. 4 interceptions, 13 pass breakups, 7 forced fumbles, and 14 tackles for a loss. So he is what Iowa call, he is their cash It is a defensive position that was created by their DC Phil Parker. So basically, what Iowa's catch is used to be Dane Belton, who's with the New York Giants now. It is a hybrid between a corner, a safety, and an outside linebacker. This isn't like your Spur that just plays at safety and plays at linebacker. Generally, these guys are a lot bigger as well. This guy has to be a lot more versatile in how he plays. A little slimmer, but still to have the build of a linebacker, but to have the fluidity of a DB. And you've got to have someone who's really specific for this position. But he fits this to a T, as I say, 5'11", 205. He's got the build to play on the outside a little bit, and he's got that build of a DB as well. So he makes his bread against the run. He is an absolutely fantastic run defender. He hits like a freight train, but he moves with the speed of a bullet train coming downhill. He is so quick. This short area speed allows him to make plays on the run quick. They also use him from his off-ball linebacker position to come up and blitz against the run as well, hence why you've got the 14 tackles for a loss in there at this point. And the aggressive nature of how he plays leads to turnovers all the time. As I say, 7 forced fumbles. He's forced more fumbles than he's got interceptions in his career there. So there's 2 ways you can turn a ball over in the game. It's just because he hits you that hard with such good technique that he just is able to jar the ball loose from you. He's got a return touchdown from one of them as well. But as I say, this is where he makes it bread, but it's the IQ where he really stands out. The ability to be able to play this position. And I know I've said a lot in the past, I don't really like tweeners and stuff like that, but this is a specific position made for you. He's not just getting shoved here, there, and everywhere because he's an athlete. This is a guy who can make plays with the intelligence of a DB, and he also come up and pass rush as well. You've got to be able to read the game very well, first and foremost, and the ability for him to diagnose run plays, as I've mentioned, to be able to make plays on the balls quick. You can see it in his eyes. He's just so quick at diagnosing what they do. And you know, with Iowa, the scheme, the history there, they make DBs who are technically very gifted and they've got high IQs. He's the next off the line here. He's very good in man coverage. Then this is what stands out about the cash position for him. So if you do bring him up onto the edge, you see him. He's tracking back with running backs on wheel routes. They will put him on these really quick, nifty slot wide receivers. They will put him up against tight ends of all shapes and sizes, whether it's the bigger, bulkier guys or the smaller, more nimble tight ends. This is what sets him apart from a spur linebacker, because you'll never see one of these safety linebacker hybrids come up and try and take a running back out the backfield. They just don't have the athleticism and the skill to be able to do so, hence why his position is so niche. And in this modern day NFL, you really need stuff. You've seen Dane Belton. He's doing all right at the Giants. He's slowly integrating there. They're using him in a similar method, putting him all over, and his career's slowly getting going with them. But he's the guy, if you've got a problem matchup, he's the one you call to bring in to deal with it. And he's fairly good in zone coverage as well, because Iowa play a little bit of both. So his ability to read the quarterback when he's sat in zone, that's where most of his interceptions come from. Not when he's playing in man. That's where a lot of PBUs come from. When he's got time to scan the field, assess what's happening, that's where he makes his plays, and that's where he's really dangerous. So he's not just versatile in the positions he plays, but in that you can play man and zone with him as well. He's got good feel for his zones. He never drops too deep. He's able to cut routes off before they develop because of where he comes back and sits. Very hard for some of these guys to be able to do that. But again, this Iowa, how they teach them there, they just teach them different. So there's a lot to love about Sebastian Castro. I say I've watched about 3 or 4 games worth of him. I've watched more over the years, but where it comes to the downsides for him, he's going to be 25 this year, so he is an older prospect, but he's probably ready to start day one if you bring him in. And of course, the thing with tweeners always sometimes do have development issues where they lag a little bit behind the guys who specialize in one position. Obviously, he's played a lot in the box, he's played a lot at corner, he's played a lot at safety, so you've got to develop him before he's able to fully utilize that at the next level. And like all good run defenders who love to come and hit people, he is prone to seeing the pot at the end of the rainbow and jumping routes, being too over aggressive, wanting to go and hit somebody. He doesn't do it often, but as I say, the 16% missed tap rate, there's just a few in there that he'd probably like back because he does jump the gun, I think, especially when he's getting a little antsy as well. But pretty much every guy who loves to come downhill and hit someone is guilty of that at some point in their career. And a few over pursuits as well. But I mean, for me, the most part, the IQ is just going to set him in a real good position to succeed right away. There's going to be a defensive coordinator out somewhere who's going to take advantage of his unique skill set because very few players play this and they'll make it work right away and you'll just develop him as you go along. And I don't think the age concern is going to be too much of an issue here. You're probably looking, he's sort of all over the board a bit at the minute. Again, the age puts him down a bit, but the positional versatility puts him up. You're looking at a day two pick at this point in time, I would say. I think you're going to get very good value for him. Where he fits in with us, I mean, again, you want a guy who, because we've got our two safeties here right now, you want someone who can go work around the defense, can do other jobs whilst not just sitting on the bench all the time waiting for Curbs and for Branch to come out the system. We need guys who can blitz. In his category, we can bring him up a little bit and we can use him in that facet of the game. If we're not going to replace Iffy entirely, this is probably the next thing you'll get to it, where you can also bring him up to the linebacker position and blitz him as well. I think he fits very well with us. Obviously, he'll know Jack very well from his time here, and I think he would be ready to start almost instantly where you get him from. But I do really like him. He's just getting slept on. I think because of his age, you hear Iowa prospects getting bigged up every year. He's not had that same type of treatment, but the RAS gets knocked for him a bit. But again, Ash and I have both been on the receiving end of having safeties we like who have bad RASs, and they still do well. RAS just seems to not understand the safety position as well because he plays multiple positions, so I don't think you can just grade him as a safety either. But I really like Sebastian Castro. If he ends here, great. Ash?
Yeah, I really like him as well. And the good thing is he's the perfect Branch backup as well because he's got that positional versatility. He's played both safety spots, so free safety, strong safety, plays in the nickel, he's played outside linebacker. Remember Branch's rookie year where we were basically playing him as an overhang safety on rundowns because of his impact in the box. So he's the perfect backup for that, especially, if Branch gets pissed off against the refs and Green Bay again. We've got the perfect guy to sub in. We can let Branch flip the double birds again and just go, okay, you get yourself ejected, right? Castro, here's your time to shine, buddy. And it's right in the funny thing is, I'm looking at our consensus board, Castro is slotted right between the two guys I've looked at. So this is, day two, so he's ranked 95th on our board. It's the number 7 safety. That's incredibly close to 102. So again, he'll be on the list because, safety is definitely a need for us. But it's just getting easier for getting slept off because it's almost prospect fatigue in him. Maybe it's just because everyone knows what he is. He's always going to be like a solid 7 out of 10 performer for you. You might get the occasional 6 performance. You might get the occasional 8 performance, but nothing really outside that range. So everyone's betting on the upside of some of the other guys. Like there's a certain South Carolina guy who I got round to watching this weekend, and oh my fucking God, I don't see the hype. Castro, somehow, it's going under the radar. And if he does come here, it's the perfect line, as you say, knows Jack Campbell, will know Sam Laporta as well going up against him. Perfect fit for us.
I think it's just, it's the age and it's the scheme fit, which I think we're to the knocks there. Is he going to find the right system to him? But again, Giants have shown they can do it with Dane Belton, who did exactly what he did. It can be done. Right. Let us move it on to your prospect number 2. Who you going for next?
I will go for someone that's a bit close. Since we went to the Big Ten, let's stay in the Big Ten. Well, we're going to both guys anyway. And this is a guy who will fit the Brad Home draft strategy because he's coming off an injury, and that is the Penn State safety who wears number 2 for them, Kevin Winston Jr. So he's 6'1", 215, and he's a junior, so he's 21 years old, so on the younger side, which is good. He's spent all 3 of his years at Penn State, and unfortunately, because of his injury, which we'll get onto in a minute, he unfortunately does not have a RAS because he didn't really test the combine he measured in. Didn't do much else than that. This past year, he had a 61.2 overall defensive grade from PFF, but a 90.7 run defense grade, a 69.5 tackling grade, a 60 pass rushing, a 46.1 coverage grade, and 59.4 special teams. He only played 74 defensive snaps this season because of his injury, 30 of which were run defense, 43 in coverage, 1 pass rush. 4 of his snaps were outside the tackle in the 9 technique, 17 were in the box, 42 were at free safety, 10 in the slot, 1 at wide corner. He had 3 targets this past season, allowed 2 catches, so that's 66.7% completion rate, for 28.5 yards reception, no touchdowns, no PBUs, and 109.7 passer rating allowed. He had 7 solo tackles, 5 assisted, missed a further 2, so that's 14.3% missed tackle rate. He had 2 run stops and 1 forced fumble, and he had his 1 pass rushing rep. He had a QB hit, which is good to see. Also, a guy who had no penalties on defense, though very hard to get more than 0 penalties on 74 defensive snaps, so small sample size, of course. And he played 6 special team snaps, no tackles, no penalties. Of course, I could only really watch 1 game from this past season, and that's week 1 again at West Virginia. He had a 68.0 defensive grade, 90.8 run defense, 80.1 tackle, and 53.1 coverage grade. Played 60 snaps, 27 run defense, and 33 in coverage. He had 1 pressure, which was his QB hit, 6 solo tackles, a further 5 assisted tackles. He missed a further 1, 2 run stops, 1 forced fumble, and he was targeted twice. He allowed 1 catch for 25 yards. To start with the general stuff, he is a gritty player. So between week 1 and 2 in the Wednesday practice between weeks 1 and 2, he partially tore his ACL. Thought, it's just a twinge, I'll play for the adrenaline. He played against Bowling Green week 2, left him during the second quarter because of the injury, had the scan, discovered obviously partially tore his ACL, opted for surgery and the safe side instead of continuing to play on it, which would have fully tore it and made it even worse for himself. But what screams Dan Campbell guy than literally playing with a slightly broken kneecap? He's literally playing with only 1 working leg. What was the Dan Campbell thing? We don't care if you've got 1 leg and 1 ass cheek, we'll still beat the fuck out of you. Kevin Winston's playing like that. So just a gritty guy. And again, it's someone who communicates with your defenders, especially though there was a set of goal line players against West Virginia, and he was the guy directing all the sort of non-defensive line players, telling them what to do. And he has a great football IQ who reads the game really well, especially from the single high alignment. So in coverage, I know obviously he doesn't have the great coverage grade from PFF, but I actually really, really liked his coverage in this game. So there was one instance where he reads the wide receiver motion pre-snap for screen, runs down there, just stands in front of him like, right, this was the screen, I'm just going to block it off, right? You're going to have to go elsewhere, forces the QB to go elsewhere, and it works. He also then reads a screen a bit later on in a trips formation where the inside of the 3 trips was going to get the screen, so he drops back and just misses the tackle on it. But again, just showing that great football IQ. And again, in the single high alignment, there was a dig route from the tight end, and he just crashes down really well on it, gets the tackle for no gain. That's 25 yards he gave up, according to PFF. And then a bit later on, he was then also very unlucky with a contested ball where he kind of bats it down, but then the receiver catches it off the bobble at the second attempt. I don't think PFF credited that as a catch on his blame because he technically wasn't a close defender at that point, but got very unlucky with that. And then in his run defense, as you can tell from the grade, again, the football IQ showing that especially, just reads it really well, wraps up the back quite a couple of times, including one time where there's toss play, reads it really well, forces the back outside, uses the sideline as an extra defender, gets him down, and he's even able to get soft blocks from tight ends and from linemen to make plays, especially on outside zone, which is good to see. His hit comes from kind of unplanned blitz. He's in a hook zone and he sees the QB sort of booting out and is like, no one's blocking me here, so maybe I should go for him. Gets the hit on him, forces a throwaway. It's really good. Again, just someone that is screaming Dan Campbell guy from the way he's able to play. So my comparison for him is Brian Cook, who is the safety for the Kansas City Chiefs. Very similar build, very similar play styles. It's a split shell safety who is best in run defense rather than coverage, but he's just good all round. Like you can stick him, tell him to do whatever, be it pass rushing, be it run defense, be it coverage, and you know you're going to get a good play from him. He's fit on his lines, as I said, is that third safety initially you can rotate in, but at both spots. But probably on the depth chart, he'll be put as backing up Kirby because he just seems more comfortable in that single high alignment where he can sit back, read what's in front of him, read the offense, and then as soon as he diagnoses the play, go and snap on it and make a play, which he does quite often. He did quite often in what I've seen of him. So right now, he's currently the 8th ranked safety on the consensus board for us, the 100th overall prospect, which puts him as a late third rounder. I have him higher ranked than this, even with my usual half round knockoff that I do for injury concerns. So we heard that a couple of weeks ago with the receivers, Torrey Horton and Trey Harris, because it's just, I know he said at the combine he expects to be fully fit for the start of the season, but obviously because we're not privy to medicals, I can't confirm that. So I just have to earn a surge caution. Versatile safety with good athleticism and football IQ to play in the back end and in the box. And because of his instincts, I expect him to be able to make up for any potential lost physicality from the injury while he gets back up to full strength. He could very easily be in play at pick 60 for me if the team is happy with his medicals, but he's definitely a candidate to be picked at 102, given his upside as a reliable starter in the league. Again, if Kirby becomes too expensive to resign next year, there's your guy. You slot him in at single high. You don't get the sideline coverage you do get from Kirby. Kirby just has that extra little bit of athleticism that not many safeties seemingly do in the league. But you get a guy who's reliable against the run, can pass cover deep if you need him to, and can run blitz as well, which we kind of lost, as you said, with Iffy earlier. So again, just someone who really has put himself in the conversation for a late day, that sort of comp pick 102 that we've got. Kevin Winston Jr. will probably be on the Lions board at that point.
I am so conflicted about him. And it's not because of who he is as a player, but he's not even played 700 snaps in college. He would be a redshirt junior this year if he came back. He had a minimal true freshman season. He had his big breakout last year as a sophomore, but he's not played this year. 700 snaps and you're declaring as a redshirt. Like, this is, people are getting younger. People want to get into the NFL quicker, even with NIL around. You saw last year what he was, which was an absolute stud. And again, if you're going to bet against anybody being technically prepared for the NFL right now, you're not going to bet against a Penn State defender because, again, history shows that they all come into this league ready to go. And, you know, the amount of time it takes them to adapt is minimal. So you would fancy him right away. And he does everything, really. And he does. You hear about him, long, rangy, physical. You think, words you'd use about Iffy. Long, rangy, physical. Also had injury issues in college. But at the same point, it's the brand of football that he plays. But it's just, is he ready? Has he had enough football? That's, I think, why he's in the late day two, day three combo. I think it's just he's going to take time to adapt because of the lack of football he's played. But there's absolutely no doubt in the type of player that he is at all, which could be one of the best safeties in the league if he wanted to be, if he got to where he wanted to. And obviously the health and that, it works for him. And like you say, the grit's there, the attitude's there. There's certainly no question of commitment to the mental side for him. It's just the physical. It's just the sheer lack of football, which is the thing. But if he's fine with that, then go for it. Like, this is why he's so intriguing. He would probably be a high day two pick if he got a full year behind him and he had another year similar to what he had last year. So that's potentially the value you're getting at 102. Maybe I think that's where Brad does a lot of his deals. That the potential value, like James Mitchell, guys, like the potential value you get for the pick you're giving is potentially a hell of a lot better what you're getting. So
to wind it back a couple of weeks, so is he a poisoned apple prospect for you?
It's a poison. No, forbidden fruit.
Forbidden fruit. That was it.
He's forbidden fruit. You're told not to get him because for these reasons or that, but you can't help but want to grab him and take a bite of him and hope that he's delicious and tempting and lovely and worth the suffering you're going to get for it. But he is. Because again, you've got to be sure that, one, the injury's cleared up, but two, you've got to be comfortable with him having played such again, it's all about development. You know, muscle memory comes with reps. The more reps you play, the better you are. And there's no correlation between everyone can someone always breaks the mold, but it's a question you've got to ask more times than not. 700 snaps, very few this year, not played football for a while, coming off a bad injury. Are you willing to deal with that? But for a team like us who have got two safeties already, do we really need him day one? Potentially not. Can you bet him in? Yes, absolutely. It could be a fit. I do agree. So yeah, he's going to be a very interesting case study for me. So we will see. Right, we're going to move it on to the second of my guys now, and his name's already come up in the chat already. And this is a guy I've liked for a very long time, and I don't know why I haven't talked about him a lot more than I have done, especially on the college show. But next up, we've got Andrew Makuba. He's the safety from Texas, their free safety this year. So very well tenured college player, Andrew Makuba. He's 6 foot, 190 pounds. Love the frame of him right away. 3 years at Clemson, 1 year at Texas. He is a Zimbabwean, so all the way from Zimbabwe. And of course, we love our African players here. In Detroit, we had the Nigerian group a few years back, but anywho, besides the point, 2,452 snaps in college, 415 in the box, 1,181 at free safety, 803 in the slot. This guy has moved around here, there, and everywhere. His stats: 6 quarterback pressures, 1 sack, 1 hit, 4 hurries, 218 tackles, 56 run stops, 12.8% missed tackle rate, pretty good. 86 targets, receptions given up on 137 targets, just 63%. So again, not bad for a safety. 6 interceptions, 17 PBUs. Now, first and foremost, this guy has been on a journey. If you go back and discover where it all happened, obviously started for him as a young kid on the streets of Harare in Zimbabwe, led all the way to Austin, Texas, and for me, his pursuit of greatness is his defining attribute as a player. You talk about a player who won't take no for an answer and is constantly striving to be better. This is the type of guy he is. He was a state champion with the Austin LBJ Jaguars in high school, then came to Clemson as a very highly rated recruit in the ACC. He won the Freshman of the Year award for the ACC in 2021. Then the very bold transfer to Texas this year when he outwardly not critiqued Clemson, but said they couldn't do any more for him there. He needed to keep evolving as a player. So he made a bold move to go to Texas and had a career year with them. Standout performances in the SEC championship game, in the playoffs. This is a guy who's just gone from level to level and keeps going. And the thing that really stands out about the thing, where it's his athletic ability for one, but he's another very instinctual player. His game lives or dies by this. But unfortunately for him, it's kind of been his undoing for his first few years. Because, if you listen to us on the college show, we talk a lot of times about players who get played out of position, who get made in tweeners just because they're athletic. Clemson played him everywhere on their defense. And when I say everywhere, slot, outside, free safety, strong safety, because he's an athlete and because he could do a job, he got played everywhere. Obviously, he had his great freshman year, but then his sophomore and junior years were really disappointing. By the end of his third year, he'd only got 1 interception in college football, which for a guy of his standing is, he should be doing a lot better than that. And he sort of sussed out the fact that they were just moving him all over. He wasn't settled. He wasn't able to develop at a certain position. And so he made the choice to go to Texas. He got good friends there, Jahdae Barron, he knew really well. And this is a team that have really gotten the best out of him this year. They've moved him specifically for the most part, to the free safety role. They have played him a little in the box as well, a lot less in the slot, and it's really benefited for them. I mean, 5 interceptions and 6 pass breakups. 5 of his 6 career interceptions came this year. A third of his pass breakups came this year. He had his only forced fumble this year. He's had one of his best years in coverage. In fact, he's had it by far. He graded at nearly 90 this year, and you've seen some of the highlight plays he's made. He took a gamble on himself, and this thing paid off. But I say, it's because he's now got his helmet free safety. And he's got all the attributes you want to play at free safety. He is highly athletic. He can go sideline to sideline. He can cover a lot of ground in a short space of time. He's got the IQ to be able to diagnose plays, to be able to ball track through the air, as we've seen this year. The picks have just gone insane. He's got the speed to match up with some of these quick ex-receivers running goes and be able to put himself in a position to make plays on the ball. The hips are great. The foot movement's great. The strength when he's battling is great. For a guy who's 190 pounds, he plays a lot heavier. And when it comes to the run game, he hits like he's 290 pounds. I mean, some of the times you see him land hits in there, you fear for him, but he's been relatively healthy in his career. As I say, nearly 2,500 snaps for him, never had a major injury. But again, when he's up closer to the line of scrimmage, that IQ to diagnose where the runs are going, he's able to make plays on the ball quick. If there's quicker running backs trying to get to the perimeter, he can hunt them down very quickly. And, you know, again, you found the ability to make turnovers against the run this year as well. Started with the forced fumbles, started with that. So he's very multi-positional, he's very versatile, but you use him as a free safety to start with, you develop him there, and then you develop the versatility after this. But the IQ is in show when he makes a pick. So the two that come to mind, he picked off Carson Beck when they were playing against Georgia. Now it's a deep throw between the numbers downfield. Now initially he's playing at the free safety slot. He comes up to the line of scrimmage. Carson Beck kind of loses sight of him. Then when the play happens, he drops, and his receiver, who he's looking for, gets this quick in-breaking route, gets 2 yards of separation between him and the DB on him. Beck's eyes are fixated on him, has no idea Andrew Makuba's coming from the other side of the field, and he makes a stunningly good grab very quickly. He just comes out of nowhere, takes it, brings it back about 20 yards, puts it on a scoring play for Texas, who go and score on that next drive. It's his ability to deceive, to bait quarterbacks into making throws, even when he's there. And then the other one that comes to mind, it was one of the best of the year, his interception of Sam Levitt in the playoff game when they were playing Arizona State to seal the game for them. So this is in the red zone at this point. And again, he's got in a receiver who outbreaks towards the pylon. And Sam Levitt looks at his receiver. He can see Makuba's there, but he's several yards off. He thinks he's got time to make this play. The second the ball is leaving his hands, Makuba jumps the route, springs like a salmon, high points this thing in the air, takes it right off the receiver's hands, interception, ices it, sends Clemson through. Sends Texas through to the next round of the playoffs. This is just where he's in his wheelhouse. He is such a clever safety. It reminds me so much of what Kirby does here with the Lions. His ability to bait guys into trying to make throws to beat him, and he will make you pay in the hardest way possible. He plays very tough against the run like Kirby does. I think he's probably going to be an iteration. He's going to follow maybe a similar career path to him, but for me, he's entirely underrated again, like a lot of these safeties are. It's just because he's had 3 years where he's been bogged down by positional changes, by not being able to develop at a position again, with tweeners not being able to develop your technique. So the technique is where it's going to be. It's specifically against man coverage. His technique is a little wanting, but he's never been put in positions consistently enough to be able to develop it. And some of the tackling can be a little bit dicey as well. He's generally good with the one-on-ones in space, but there are occasions where guys can get a bit of the better of him. But for me, with the correct development in the right system, where the guys can just fine-tune those edges out, he's going to be an elite free safety in the NFL. And then when you've got him there, you can start reintroducing the versatility packages where you can play him at corner, where you can bring him up into the box a bit more, but get him settled first, then expand his game out. And I think you're going to get a terrific player. Again, you're probably definitely high day 2 value is what you will get from him. Maybe day 1 potentially if he really reaches his ceiling. I think his ceiling's incredibly high. He's what you look for in the NFL now in terms of a pure athlete. But there's just so much to like about him, and there's so much untapped potential with him. And Texas showed you the kind of player he can be this year, and I'm so glad he did eventually make that transfer. As I say, if you want a ball hawk who's just going to absolutely game change for you, bait QBs into throws they shouldn't be making, he's the guy you should go for. I really like Andrew Makuba. Ash?
So do I, unfortunately. As I say, he's a former ACC guy. I should hate him especially since one of his best games last year, as one of his final games as a Tiger, was against us, and he played really damn well. Then again, not to be surprised, not to be not expected, I guess. But yeah, I do really like him. But I was resistant to him because, as we all know, I'm beholden to Kirby, and it will be if we draft McHugh. But it does almost seem like right, we're preparing for Kirby, like we're just too expensive for us. He's going to go and someone's going to pay for the potential, and then we'll get a comp pick from it. I'm coming more and more around to be accepting of that, and McHugh will be perfect for that. As you say, you give him that year to sort of he rotates in, learns the position, plays a bit of special teams because you have to as a backup guy. But he's got F listen to it. Like there's a gunner for us day one if we need him to. And then next year if Kirby doesn't get extended because he's just too expensive, we don't miss a beat. Just stick him in at free safety, single high in our cover 1 quarter system, and he'll just hit the ground running. And then that's another 3 years of cost-controlled, really damn good safety play. We can then afford to pay Branch. So, yeah, if he's there at 102, I'd run the card in. If the team wants to take him at 60, I'll do it because he might not be there at 102. So, again, based on a consensus board, there's the top 3 safeties. Then it's a drop-off. Then Makuba's that next one. So he's the number 4. Is ranked currently 86th overall. So he might, but Pete team might want him. They might take him early in that. I know he's not a Georgia Bulldog, but with a certain team trading away their starting free safety the past week for a depth guard, Super Bowl champs need a new free safety at the end of round 2. He'd be perfect there.
I mean, the Super Bowl champs could let their other safety come to Detroit if they were really nice, but we can dream. But
we can dream. We can dream of adding, improving the stockpile of Reed players. But
a man can dream.
Yeah, one day we'll get one of your draft crushes.
One day
here.
One day we'll get one of my draft crushes here.
Hopefully it become a Cuba.
I think I'm cursed to like good players and never get to have them on my team. That's what I'm at peace with now. It's going to be got Malcolm, but yeah, in terms of Makuba, I think it's underrated. People look at stat lines, and this is why when we talked about Mickens earlier, and it was very interesting when I read about what Makuba said about being at Clemson. They do, and you think about Clemson defense, the defense from Clemson coming into the NFL, D-line, linebackers. Not always necessarily those DBs who come in, and certainly of the higher end picks that you're talking about, the Clemson ones. And it seems that quite a few of these guys have been saddled with the, right, we're going to be very versatile and play you all over. But then you get to your junior and senior years and you're lacking in certain departments. Mickens, we mentioned the tackling. It's difficult to keep adapting to who you're playing against when you're playing as a box corner one time, then you're playing as a deep safety. It prevents the development of your game. And I think Makuba's been in the same thing. Texas simplified it this year. Playing deep, playing where his attributes are good, and you reap the rewards from it. And I think you've seen from the way the interceptions he gets there, it is very Kirby reminiscent. Like, I'm dead, go on, you try and pass that ball. I'll get there before you can throw it there. And a lot of quarterbacks are just too proud to not say no to it, aren't they? They're like, I'm going to have a go and we're going to see what we're going to do. So he's not going to be there at 102. If he is, I'm shocked, and I would bang the door down, no matter where the lines are gone at this point, because he'd be a great third guy here. And again, you can maybe even move Branch out, play him a little bit in the slot or whatever, and have Makuba, and you can do whatever you like with these three. I think it would be great for us, but I really, really like Andrew Makuba there out of Texas. Right, and then we're moving it on. We've got one guy left a piece there. Rich Baldwin goes Makuba at 102. Yeah, I think he's gonna struggle to be there at that point. He should go a lot earlier, and rightly so. Ash, who is last on your docket of main guys this week?
Well, seems that someone's been held hostage because we're about to pay a ransom. Of course, I'm talking Lathan Ransom, the Ohio State safety who wears number 8. He's 6 foot flat, 206 pounds, and he's a senior, so he's 22 years old. He spent all 5 of his years at Ohio State. No RAS, didn't test at the combine, weighed in, measured, didn't do any of the drill, the athletic testing as far as I could see. PFF grades 82.3 this past season with a 93.5 run defense grade, 66.9 tackling, 87.9 pass rush grade, 66.5 coverage, 71.4 special teams. He played 823 defensive snaps, 360 in run defense, 449 in coverage, and 14 pass rushing. Those 14 pass rushing snaps, pretty much all of them came, so 14 at the 9 technique outside the tackle. He also had 226 snaps in the box, 490 at free safety, 82 in the slot, and 8 at wide corner. This past season, he had 30 targets, allowed a 70% completion rate for 13 yards a catch, 1 touchdown, 1 PBU, 1 interception, 95.4 passer rating allowed. He also made 63 solo tackles, further 15 assisted, but also missed 14, so that's a 15.2% missed tackle rate, 25 run stops, and 3 forced fumbles. On his pass rushing snaps, he had 5 pressures, so 1 sack, 1 QB hit, and 3 hurries. He also, unfortunately, had 1 penalty on defense this past year. And then on special teams, he played 105 snaps, had 1 tackle, 1 assisted tackle, and no penalties. The game I watched for him was the game against Penn State this past year, where he had a 70.2 defensive grade, 60.7 run defense, 69.4 tackling, 61.9 pass rushing, and 71.2 coverage. Played 53 snaps, 24 were in run defense, 28 in coverage, 1 pass rushing. On that pass rush snap, he had a hurry. He also made 4 solo tackles, 2 assisted tackles, missed 1 further tackle, made 2 run stops, and he was targeted twice for 1 catch for 31 yards. Kind of like with Winston, as I said earlier, supposedly they have the best game in coverage, but I really liked what he did. So he reads a screen really well early in the game and forces the wide receiver out of bounds. And then there was some very, very good coverage reps from him, especially against the slot and against the tight end. So it seemed at points Ohio State was using Ransom as a tight end eraser because, of course, they were going up against presumptive top 15 pick Tyler Warren in this game. And for the most part, he played really well. So it's a very, very good rep he had against Warren where it was press coverage. For me, 50-50, ticky-tacky call if it was thrown for pass interference. Like both had their hands in each other, but it's something to bear in mind because we all know what NFL refs are like with hands. If a Lions defender has their hands on the receiver, it's an instant DPI spot foul. So it's something that will have to probably be cleared up if we do pick him. And even in the last rep of the game, it covers Tyler Warren on like a sort of goal line fade pattern. Perfect coverage rep. Ball does not come anywhere near Warren because he's blanketed in coverage. Really good to see. And then run defense again, uses instincts well, reads a QB scramble from Allard really well and forces him to slide twice in the game. Also reads an inside zone and crashes down on it, makes a tackle. And then he has a really, really damn good B-gap blips where the left guard is literally spun around. He's trying to look at him and he's gone, oh shit. But unfortunately just missed the tackle. And then his pass rush also came from a B-gap blitz but against the right guard. And he sort of does it, but then loops to get to Allard, going to his face, kind of making him panic, took the ball, gets to Horry from a throwaway. As I said, he uses tight end eraser, which is something I've been looking for from a safety for a while. Like that's what I hoped if he would be ever since that second year. He might be that role for us, that kind of box safety that can do coverage against tight ends, against running backs, have impact against the run, but also do some single if you need him to. So my player comparison for him is Taylor Rapp, the former Rams and now Buffalo Bills safety. Again, very similar build and play styles as versatile split shell safeties who can play in the box or deep safety to a dependable level. You know what you're getting from him. And his fit for us is at that first safety who could rotate in either Kirby or Branch, though unlike Winston, as I said earlier, Branton probably be better at that branch role, covering the slot, but more of the box safety, just because he doesn't have that high-end speed like Kirby does, but he has like the instincts and the hard-hitting ability like Branch does. So Branch is this, Ransom is the 6th ranked safety on our board and the 93rd overall prospect, and which puts him as a late 3rd round pick, like I'm sure the other ones I've had. I would have him slightly higher ranked than this, with me earmarking him for the top of that 3rd round because he's just a versatile, solid safety who's dependable, but he just doesn't have a standout trait or top tier like athletic trait that most teams would want to cover. Like if you're picking a guy early, you should have something to hang his hat on. For most teams that aren't us, or from our like sort of coaching tree now with the Bears and the Jets, he just would be like a day three guy. Or he's just like a backup guy who can rotate in, do some special teams with nothing there. But for us, because of his play style, that his hard hittingness, his ability to do everything at a high standard, he's a football guy. He'd be a really good fit for us, and he could potentially again be in the conversation for pick 60. And in the second round, sometimes you can reach for the sort of top of the third round guys if you really like them. And again, should be high up on the list for 102 if he's still available at that point, because there's your third safety. You can stick him in heavy dime packages. You can put him in the nickel. You can put him as a subline back and some stuff, and you know what you're getting from him. It's the sort of perfect line to pick, inverted commas, at safety.
Yeah, I quite like Latham as well. Like with the Ohio State prospects, I spend that much time ragging on Ryan Day that you have to go back and give him an extra look and actually see the player from the coach there. But he's kind of just been one of those solid, dependable guys they've had for years there now. In like a team full of studs and superstars, he's like Mr. Dependable. And, there's been other big, flashy recruits like Caleb Downs has been there this year. Everyone talks about Caleb Downs. No one talks about Latham Ransom. But, I agree. He is sort of a big... He's a fit for us in terms of like he'll do everything in the run game you ask him to. He's not afraid to come and hit somebody. He'll do all the dirty work in the world you want to do for him, and he'll do it without complaint. And the only things with him, I know he's had a few injuries, but that doesn't really put Brad off. But that may be where he slid a little bit there. But I think in terms of his versatility and what he brings, I don't think there's many obvious flaws to his game. He's just like above average at everything. Like that's what you want from a day three. You're like an early day three, late day two guy, right? Just be good at everything. Don't need to necessarily be spectacular. Just be good at everything. That's what I get with Latham Ransom. So yeah, well, intriguing for sure. Like a lot of these safeties, the safety class is going to be weird. It's when they start popping, do a few of them go up the board, or do they all start to drop? There could be some significantly good value with some of these guys if they start slipping into day three and like not at the early parts of it either. Right. The last one we've got here in terms of the main ones, and I think Ash very subtly threw a jibe his way earlier, if I remember rightly. I'm pretty sure he did. But there's one certain prospect that's drawing a lot of rave reviews, especially on the back end of his combine performances and off a really good year as well. I guess we've got to talk about Nick Emenwari, right, Ash? Was that the veiled reference you made earlier about someone you didn't believe in?
Yeah.
And why is Nick Emenwari drawing such rave reviews at this moment in time? Well, again, we're talking about guys who are young, who are coming into this draft. He's a true junior this year. And for those who don't know, true junior, he's played every year since he was a true freshman. So this is only his third year in college, and it's his third year as a starter. So he still ranks as a true junior. But let me just go through a little bit of his stuff before we get into the player. So he's 6'3" and 227 pounds, and he's highly athletic. Now, let's think back to a draft a couple of years ago where a certain 6'4", 220-pound highly athletic safety came through the draft ranks and took everybody by storm. It's a very lazy comparison to make, but a certain Kyle Hamilton came through the doors a few years ago, and everyone was absolutely amazed by his range, like the length he played with, the field he could cover, the athleticism, all sorts of stuff. I'm maybe thinking there's a little bit of this when it comes to Nick Emenwari, but I say, yeah, he's 6'3", 227 pounds. He's a 3-year South Carolina Gamecock. He's been there since day one. And we talked about Kevin Winston Jr. earlier. 3 years in college, only played 700 snaps. Just 3 years in college for Nick Emenwari, 2,341 snaps. But here's where the breakdown gets interesting. 1,004 of those are in the box, 710 at free safety, 564 in the slot. They've used him mostly in the box this year for 2024. And he did come out of high school as a middle linebacker prospect, although from what I've read, he played pretty much every position on the defense in high school, but he was a middle linebacker prospect, and with his build, you can see why. So his stats while he's been in college: 11 quarterback pressures, 2 hits, 9 hurries, no sacks to this point, 271 tackles in his 3 years, 56 run stops, a missed tackle rate of just 9.7%. He's in single-digit figures there. Just given up 61 receptions on 101 targets, which is just 60%, which again, damn good. 6 interceptions, 10 pass breakups for him. And talk about taking an opportunity. So he wasn't necessarily the highest rated recruit coming out of college, coming out of high school, sorry, when he came to South Carolina. But his very first game in college, he was sat there on the bench. RJ Roderick, who was the starter at the time for South Carolina at safety, he got injured on the very first drive of the season. Imamore got put into the lineup. He never left the field again. He has been a solid starter for 3 years, barely any injury woes, barely any time off the field whatsoever. Talk about taking an opportunity and, keeping on top of that. And what is it that people love about him again? The athletic side is absolutely crazy. Let's just go through his accolades first that he's been able to rack up while he's there. He got Freshman of the Year awards. He was first team freshman All SEC. He was second team freshman All American in his first year. This year, he got the SEC Defensive Player of the Year, the SEC Player of the Year from some groups. He's first team All SEC. That was an absolutely unanimous vote from them. And I'll just grab up his RAS. I don't like to use RAS, but trying to explain why people are so high on him, because he tested really well, which may be to the surprise of some people because athleticism was something that they were maybe not thinking. But his RAS score, he got a 10. I mean, you can't really do better than a 10 when you're on your RAS score. Elite composite grade, the vertical of 43 inches, an 11-foot broad jump. And then when it comes to the 40 speed, he ran a 4.4. His 10-yard split was a 1.5. He's an athletic freak, is just what we're going to say. Let's just leave it at that. Athletically freakish, but it's the way he plays the game as well. Again, positionally, you can play him all over. And for a guy who started as a true freshman, his development of the game has been quite something to behold. There's not a lot of sort of fundamental problems with him. As he's got the length of the game, he has got playmaking ability. It's not just through the air. He's got the forced fumbles in there as well. Got 3 in his career, as well as the 6 takeaways, as say the 10 pass breakups. He's been asked to do a lot in this defense. The South Carolina defense has taken some punishment the last few years, and just again and again and again, he's risen to the challenge. You watch him play. I mean, when he's at the free safety position, he's another one of those. You leave him back there. His ability to diagnose the play, his ability to close quickly, his ability to jump routes is undeniable. You've got to give this to him. He's got everything you want. You can come downhill quick against the run. He can cover acres of field. Like, remember the plays Hamilton was making when people were blowing that up before his college career? He's got similar sorts of plays on tape as well. Just because of what his athletic traits allow for him. And it's the alignment as well, the position versatility. This is a guy who can genuinely come up and play middle linebacker for you if you're having problems against the run and you want a bit more beef in there, or you can drop him into coverage. And, he's just going to be this sort of Swiss Army knife you bring in to sort out a problem, and you keep going for him again and again and again. You'll find some way to play him on this team. And he's young. I mean, he's only spent 3 years. He's 21, I believe, right now.
Mm-hmm.
So the world is your oyster. Even if he spends 2 years developing before you start using him, he's still going to be 23. He's still going to be a lot younger than a lot of draft prospects in the 2027 draft. And these are all the kind of upside bits about him that you really get to like. Now, there are issues here. The run defense is the big issue with him. This is where a lot of people are a little bit, right, we've got to be careful with this because, like I say, He's playing a lot at middle linebacker. He's playing a lot at safety. They do play him a bit at corner. Again, run defense differentiates, depends where you are on the field. When he's playing up in the linebacker position, especially, he has trouble when these bigger linemen get on him because it's not something he's done as much. When you get these, there's a big difference between having a big, dirty 320-pound offensive guard blocking you than a 190-pound wide receiver out on the perimeter. And you can see sometimes he has issues with this. He can diagnose the runs. It's just the handwork, the fighting technique to disengage from some of these blocks playing at the second level now. That needs to be gotten out of the system. But again, he's so young, you're probably going to be able to do that. And again, with guys like him in the secondary, where he's so quick as well, there are a lot of examples where he can overshoot routes, where the tackling can be a little bit finicky. Now, for the most part, it's not a 9% missed tackle rate shows that it's not that much of an issue. But at the NFL level, where competition's going to skyrocket for him, these are just going to be little bits he's going to have to adapt to. Like the run game's the big thing for him. I would have absolutely no problem putting him in a safety position if you're getting air raided and saying, go out there, make some plays for me. But if you're in a big scrappy game where you're getting the ball ran down your throat, that's going to be the issue with him to start. But again, his ceiling to grow at such a young age, he's got every single physical attribute you want. And he's got the IQ that you need. He understands route concepts, no matter whether it's tight ends, running backs, wide receivers. There's examples of him on them all, and he can deal with them. And again, that athletic ability just gives him an edge. Even if he loses a yard on somebody, he can make it back really quickly. Now, the hips are a little bit tight at the moment. So again, when you're sort of doing some of the deeper stuff, he's got to get accustomed to that. But because he gets moved around so much, just some of these areas of his games are not fully developed yet. So I think really you're taking someone who's got all the athletic upside in the world, but he just needs to refine some of his technique, and he needs to gain stronger against the run, just get the better understanding of leverage. Because he's a bigger guy as well at 6'3". So you've got to watch that pad level. You've got to stay nice and low, not let someone get under you. A lot of the guards, centers who come up to him have exploited that in the past. I think there is reason for hype there. I think it's been a little too overhyped for him. But as certainly one of the best safety prospects in this draft, I think absolutely that's a deserved accolade for him. And if you're telling me he could be one of the best safeties in the NFL in 3 or 4 years' time, that is also true. He could be. And again, given his age, he's just so damn young that, well, who knows? Someone might move him into the middle a bit more. He might not even play there. It's all dependent on the guy who gets him. But I like Emma. I've liked watching the team this year for sure. South Carolina have been a hell of a lot better, but buyer beware with this one, Ash. He is young, he's raw. You just got to be careful. But we have seen it. He can be special if the right team get their hands on him.
This is why I shot the shot at him, because yeah, he could hit the ground running. He could be like Jeremy Chin, who was one of the guys who had a 10 RAS historically before Morara came around. He could also be Obi Melifonwu and crash out the league in 2 years. That's my issue with him. So I've watched a bit of tape on him, as I said, this past weekend, and I can see the flashes that make people go, wow, and then the athleticism's obviously helped boost it, but it's not consistent. So that's one of the things I've loved about the 3 guys I've sort of profiled is, for the most part, they're consistent. You know what you're getting from them. They might not have the upside that he does, but their range of outcomes is a lot slimmer. And that's something I want at this point. If I'm a team that wants to gamble on that upside, so someone like, and it's going to sound kind of hypocritical from my point I'm about to make, but someone like the Eagles who can take that time to develop him and train him. And hell, they've got one of the best defensive coaches in the league to do it with Vic Fangio. We've seen what he's done with some of the safeties he's worked for before, Eddie Jackson, for example. That's the perfect situation for him. But for us, where we've got our 2 starters locked in and we need someone reliable behind them, I don't think it's the right fit for us. Like, maybe it's the way that South Carolina used him moving around a lot, but the fact that his 7.1 yard average depth of tackle against the run, 121st of safeties in college. For someone who has his athleticism, the fact that the tape I saw, he just doesn't trig on the run fast enough for me. He's kind of got that big thing that Kirby had coming out that keep going back to him time and time again, where because of the inexperience, perhaps, he doesn't react to the run well enough. Like, go back to my profile on Kirby. I did literally one of the first articles I did for the website. But the fact that Kirby would just stand there and not let, like, at least with some of the guys I know I've said so with Mickens earlier, I said that he sort of stood there and wait for the backs coming, but he made himself wide. Both Kirby and I've watched them, they just stood there just like that, like not reacting. And then it leads to missed tackles. It leads to them giving up big plays when they get to, because by the time they react, the back's all into the second, third level and they're having to clean up, which he's got the athleticism to do for sure. Same with Kirby, they both did. But there's just, the process isn't there yet. And maybe, it's because he's 21 and he's been moved around, recruited as a middle linebacker, moved to safety, just doesn't have the instincts for me that Cole Hamilton did, that Kirby did in coverage, that made them great. So, I would love for us to have him. He's like the sort of perfect Madden player. Like, I would love next year if I get a new games console or PC to do a Madden thing and have him and do like a pink slips where he's my safety and I can make him into a 99 overall. But in real life, the range of outcomes for him to become the top safety in the league, it can happen for sure, but there's the same probability of him busting out in 2 years like Obi Melifonwu did. Obviously, people might remember as Iffy's older brother who got picked by the Patriots in the same way, athletic project at safety, and it just never worked out. It could be that it could bust out. It could be Isaiah Simmons, where it takes him to the second contract to fully work it out, but by then the luster's gone. Or it could be Jeremy Chin, where he's an absolutely great safety. You put him everywhere and he does great, but for me, the range of outcomes for me is just too high. It's too much for me to take him in the first, where some players, some mocks have him, or even the high second. For me, he's option at 60, but I'd prefer other prospects. Like, I hate to rag on the guy, but for me, it's just where I'm at with the team. I want someone I know what we're getting from him at this point. We've done enough of the athletic projects now. It's time to get guys you know what you're getting for.
Yeah, it's weird because like he played 1,000 more snaps than Kyle did in college, but at the same point, Kyle did predominantly play safety until his last year. He played a lot more in those DB positions than he did in the box, whereas like he's played over 1,000. It's just where is he going to play? But at his height and speed, I'd just use him at 6'3", his weight 230.
Yeah,
I mean, you could play him at either safety position and really get good results with him. I don't think you need to mess him around that much. And there's not many teams in the NFL that really use like your spur type players. I guess the Cowboys do. They took Marquise Bell, who was in that kind of range, and guys like that. I don't know whether the Cowboys would be interested in there. But traditionally, we as the Lions don't do that. We don't play our safeties into the box that much a lot of the time or ask that much of them. So I don't know, but
it's a matchup thing. So as I said, we did it with Branch in his rookie year. There's obviously the infamous Jeff Okudah game against the Dallas Cowboys in his last year, where we basically played him as overhang safety. He had his best game ever. So we could do it. It's just, especially since spoken. Of course, this could turn out to be wrong, but people listen to the Detroit Lions podcast. Jeff Risdon said that the Iffy role, which would be perfect for him, that sort of box safety, use him to blitz, run, defend, maybe cover tight ends occasionally, would be perfect for him, but we're phasing out, supposedly. That's what the linebackers are for now. So, unless we do an Isaiah Simmons move him to linebacker, or he'd be great as a buzz safety in a cover 3 system. We just don't play cover 3. We play cover 1 man, which he just doesn't have the instincts for right now. And we play quarters, which, again, he doesn't have the instincts for.
I think for us, he's in a bit of a no man's land for us as well. You don't pick him at 28, but probably ain't going to be there by 60 because somebody's going to love that about him. So, but I mean, nearly 2,500 college snaps by 21. Like, the dude's got experience. So, potentially what you could do with him is limitless. And I can see why people like him. So, Nick Emenware for sure he's going to be highly drafted. Hell, someone with his intangibles and that, and with the way Rass is used around the league, he might be a first round pick. Who knows at this point? He could very well sneak into the back of that day. Hell, if we're looking to trade back, that's one of the chips you could dangle for somebody there. Come and get him. You want him, you have him. So we'll see there in terms of Nick Emenwari. So that's our 6 that we've had this evening. Some of the guys we've really been, looking at in terms of this process here. But there are others going into this year. Just bear with me 1 minute while I get the consensus boards up so we can have a little
So
chat about some of the guys we've not. And now, obviously, the big one we've not done. Well, there's a couple of big ones we've not done really, but one who's slightly polarizing, and I agree with, I think it was Matt Miller wrote this today, don't overthink this about him, but Malachi Starks is
yeah,
in the building, and Malachi Starks is probably going to be a first round draft pick as well. And I think he should be a first round draft pick. I mean, in terms of, again, you're talking about the pedigree and the lineage that he's coming from here. It's just, Georgia have just pumped out so much great talent this year. And this is the year of their underrated prospects. They've got so many underrated prospects this year, but Malachi Starks, I think he is, as a single high safety, anyone who's in dire need of one of those, guy who's just going to be physical, who's going to be dominant, who's going to play for you from day one. I think Starks is just going to ultimately fit that bill right away.
yeah, he is the Carl Hamilton of this class, as in he's obviously the top safety, but because the athleticism isn't top tier like Emanwar is, and because of just prospect fatigue and other guys coming above him, he's dropping down people's boards when he shouldn't. Like, he is a top 5 talent in this class for sure. You know what you're getting from him. I'd like to use the sort of Madden analogy. If you draft him, he's a 78 overall already for you as a rookie kind of thing. But because positional value of safeties is it's improving for sure. We're definitely helping that cause, but in terms of the draft, it's not there because he doesn't have top tier athleticism compared to some of the other guys. And just because he's been around, everyone knows what they're getting from him. And suddenly you've got Matthew Golden rising up boards and Shamar Stewart rising up boards. He's getting pushed down when he shouldn't be. Whichever team gets him, like with Carl Hamilton, like with Derwin James, God, 8 years ago, whoever's getting him is going to get a damn good player, and they're quids in. They're going to get so much value out of him compared to some of the other guys that's going to go above him. Like, hell, as much as I love Jalen Walker, he's a better prospect. Starks is the best Georgia prospect in this draft.
I agree. And again, like you see the knocks on him. People knock his size. I don't think there's anything. He's what, 6 foot, nearly 200 pounds. Like, that's almost a perfect safety for me. I don't get what the knock is on him there. He's not particularly combative. He's not one of the hardest hitters in there, but in terms of what he's got and his athletic ability, I don't see what the problem is there. Now, people might say the injury stuff with him. He's had a few injuries here, but he's had a really good year this year. He's not had any of those issues this year so far. I think he's absolutely going to be up there and, he may be the first guy off the board in terms of the safety position, potentially. And I think that's the thing he's got over Emenwari is he's just a bit more refined, but he's had the luxury of being able to play his position for the most part of it. So,
and he's on Georgia, so he's got the guys in front of him. Like, I know South Carolina this year's got a lot of guys, but consistently he's played with first, second round talent in front of him most of the time, which obviously helps because you get to focus on your job. Basically, he's like Jack Campbell early season compared to Emenwari, who's Jack Campbell during the middle of the season, where he's like, who the fuck is this fucking lining up next to me? Now I'm having to do 2 people's jobs. Definitely helps him, which is not a knock on him. It means he's going to be great. And even then, like, okay, yeah, 19th overall athleticism score from next gen stats to the combine. 4.5 flat, still a good time for a safety. It's not like he's me running through treacle at 5 flat.
No, exactly. Again, I just feel they're really nitpicky, especially when it comes to the safety classes. They're just trying to find anything to just because it's positional value. People don't value them, and like people want to find ways to knock them down boards so they're not high. I do not agree with it at all. But I don't think there's any discussions with it being to Detroit though, because it got to be way too high, and we ain't trading up for safety. We'll watch Brad do it now just to really like throw us in it and be like, you can't tell me what I'm doing. But yeah. But yeah, Malachi Stark's certainly up there in terms of prospects. The other one, And the one I love, and I do not understand again why a lot of him, but Xavier Watts is also the big one out of Notre Dame. Now, Xavier Watts has been what can only be described as a ball hawk over his career. I mean, you want the intelligent, safety who can just take the ball away and change the game on a dime. He is the guy now. Obviously, he's had issues this year. He's not played as much this year, had an injury to start the year, but he's a 4-year guy at Notre Dame. He's had a couple of starters, but 13 interceptions in the last 2 seasons for him. And he's got 10 pass breakups as well. I mean, you just talk utter ball hawk, guy who knows where, guy who knows how to make plays. And again, coming out that, he was the guy after Kyle Hamilton. Those are big shoes to fill, and he absolutely has done that in spades. So again, he's like Kyle, he's very instinctual. High IQ player, you're just sitting back there, you let him watch the play develop, and his trigger is like he just makes plays on the ball. The short area speed is great. I know people do sometimes have a little bit of a go about him about the overall athleticism, but free safeties again don't need that. As long as they've got the short area speed, as long as they've got the reaction skills, it doesn't matter for them in the NFL. He's highly instinctual. He's great in space on one-on-ones. He's got the speed to be able to keep up with these guys. His tackling's really good. I don't get why he's not getting ranked higher. I think we've just got injury issues, and I know he's not played the most amount of ball, but yeah, big shoes to fill at Notre Dame. 13 interceptions in 2 years is no mistake.
Exactly. And again, it's just by his injury issues, but again, prospect fatigue, where he's been there. Everyone knows him as a really good safety. And then other guys have come in now, and everyone's kind of just put him to the wayside because they know what they're getting from him. It's just prospect fatigue. And again, whoever's going to get him, he's probably going to be in the second round. Like, he's between Starks and Makuba right now on the board. So he's, as I said, I mentioned it earlier. So Starks is 7th over on our consensus board. You've got Emma Morris 35, then Watts is 36. Then you've got a drop down of 50 to Makuba. Like, the people who know what they're talking about have got him highly ranked. So PFF have him as their 44th ranked guy, Pro Football Network 35, Breaker Report 22, the last time that we looked at the consensus board. People that know what they're talking about have him high. Like, I'd be interested when we update it with Dane Brugler's Beast to see what changes. But again, it's just the people, like, not to rag on the sort of influencer draft people, shall we say, because technically we're them, but because they look at the big flashy guys who do well in the combine and are the risers and that, yeah, they kind of forget about people like Watts, like Starks, like Sebastian Castro, where because you know what you're getting from them, you kind of push them to the way. It's like, oh, yeah. Same one, like, I know we'll probably get into it in a bit, but Malachi, well, let's transition to him now, but similar kind of guy. Malachi Moore, why the hell was he in the 190s? Why?
Yeah. I know.
Like, that's like, again, so Malachi Moore from Alabama, I think he stepped into Branch's role, but with a bit more free safety. That's that, like, one or two. That's a guy that's on my list. I've only watched one game of him so far, but I'm going to watch more of him. But like, why is he so low? Like, all these guys that you know what you get in have got pushed down the board. Like, I'll let you speak on him because this is one of your guys, but someone's really fell down the board. Aubrey Burks.
Yeah, he has. Just quickly back on Watts. I guess the age is an issue with him. He's 24 this year, but again, I'm looking at. He had to wait his time. He's at least a lifelong Irish guy. He had to wait his time behind some incredibly talented players because once Hamilton had gone, they bought in. Oh God, who did they bring it up? They bought in
Brandon Joseph, wasn't it?
The Northwestern. They bought in Brandon Joseph, and he's had to wait his time. And as I say, he's really taken it these last 2 years. And I know he's a grad student, but still, it doesn't matter. You can go start for you right away. And, maybe if he was a year younger, that's where he'd be in the conversation for the first round and maybe the best safety in this draft. Aubrey Burks is interesting. So he's the West Virginia safety. I've done work on him on the college pod. Now, his is injury related. Like, he's had really bad injury luck. during his career. Like he had a breakout first year, which is why I think it must have been 3 years ago we first started doing work on him. But
Mhm.
he's for me, he's your old school, old fashioned. I'm going to hit you as hard as I can, and I'm going to make you cough the ball up safety. Um, he's another who's oh god, I think he's about 24 this year, but he's had 4 years at West Virginia. The last 22 and 23, he was on some good form. So he only had 3 interceptions, but he's not that type of guy. He's the guy who does the run stop first, but he's just in the right position where you can't make throws on him. He doesn't give up much in terms of his receptions. The yards per reception's not too bad for him, but his injury's what's banjaxed him. He's going to be a day 3 player you get day 2 value from. He's very much in the James Mitchell echelon, if you will. I mean, if you're there in day 3 and you still need that safety 3, then absolutely, I'm gonna be fielding calls to get him. I think he would be absolutely great, but I think you've got to be careful, um, just with the injuries with him. But yeah,
Yeah.
you mentioned. Sorry, go on.
Oh yeah, I agree. So like obviously, yeah, because I remember that's why I know about him because obviously you mentioned I think it's 2022, the backyard brawl for him,
Oh
which
yeah.
again is one of your favorite obviously games of the season. That was a breakout for him. Admittedly, didn't do much in coverage, but 71.3 grade is your first start. 82.7 run defense, 83 tackling. He didn't miss a tackle, 3 run stops, hard hitting safety, as you said, and he wasn't targeted once. And then just this past couple of seasons going, so he had 2 back-to-backs, 2023, nearly 700 snaps each, and this past season 219. But yeah, it's just again because of the injuries and because he's slightly small at 5'11", people just look elsewhere. And yes, someone's going to get an absolute. He might get the Brandon Joseph's treatment in so much that remember when he was at Northwestern, he was seen as a first-round prospect, and he goes to Notre Dame, and it kind of drops off the board a bit. And he becomes a UDFA, and we snap him up. Let's just hope he doesn't have the same relationship with alcohol that Brandon Joseph did.
Oh yeah, that's it's such a shame about him there. Oh dear. You also mentioned Malachi Moore, who's in there as well. Obviously, he's the Bama safety now. Again, Malachi Moore he's been there quite some time. He's a grad student as well. He's going to be 24 this year, so probably hints at his fall as well. But 5 years at Bama, he's played over 3,000 snaps for them. And if anything, we've seen a constant barrage of Alabama DBs come through this year who've been disrespected. The year because Branch was, but that entire class, remember when they got absolutely shredded by Hooker and Tennessee, and people were like
Oh,
blowing
yeah.
up their film where there was him, there was oh God, there were the other 2 safeties got drafted this year as well. That year, sorry, that
Oh.
year. But their secondary got shredded and everybody rinsed them. And then it seemed on the back of that game, a lot of people wrote them off. But a lot of DB talents come out of Bama in the recent years, which has been doing well in the NFL. I think Malachi Moore is going to follow this track, but he did, if I remember rightly, he got injured towards the end of last year. He had to have surgery after, I think it was the Iron Bowl, if I remember rightly. I never even knew what the injury was, but he has been, and this is a big one for Lions fans out there, he's been a team captain since year 1, I believe. He's what they call a permanent team captain. That's very rare, but he was a high prospect when they got him, and he's had a lot of competition whilst he's been there. But guys, Lions look for captaincy figures. They look again for guys who, especially in the DB rooms, they're quite versatile with what they do. And he has played a little bit over. He plays predominantly in the slot, but he's played enough in the box and at free safety, and he's actually played quite a lot on the D line as well. He is over 200 pounds. He's 6 foot. So if you do want another hybridy guy who can play on the line as well, he certainly would be in that conversation. And I think you said his consensus pick was what, like 3 picks before the Lions one. What do you say, 99 or something?
He is 190.
A 190?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
I thought you said 90, and I'm still a bit like, that's a bit
190.
low.
So yeah.
Oh my days.
Exactly. Like I've looked at so like looked it up. So yeah, that one we mentioned earlier. So Jordan Battle and the Marco Helens were the two.
Yeah.
But yeah, 190. That's what I'm saying. 190. It's perhaps it's that injury, and I know he's missed the combine because of an injury. He had to get surgery on the injury he had because it was like sort of lasting throughout now. But again, it's just someone that's fell by the wayside because partly helmet scouting, maybe that like because he's fell to the wayside a bit and because of Bama's dip the past couple of years, shall we say, he's kind of got forgotten about. But his potential versatility. So this year, he started about half his game at slot corner, the other half at strong safety. Now, who does that sound like?
Ooh, I wonder.
Exactly.
It's one of his old teammates.
One of his old teammates. And as you say, twice team captain, maybe injury tax on him. This is very much I have to look up our picks again because I can't remember them off the top of my head. But this is very much, if he is there, yeah, we pick up 196 with the pick we got from the Bucks and the Carlton Davis trade.
So
if he's sitting there.
And another line thing here. So Malachi Moore, he had a season-long injury that required surgery.
Yeah.
He played through the entire season injured and then had his season. So we talk about grit determination as well. I'm not as familiar with his game as the rest, but I do know he's good. He's been a good level safety for Alabama. And I say 5 years experience, 3,000 snaps. I mean, God, that's a lot. So if you are talking day 3 guys and you are talking about a third safety, that is a name that's potentially in there, and everyone will go, Brad loves drafting injured safeties as well, or drafting injured players. We can satiate that crowd as well. In terms of outside of that, I think we're getting into a lot of day 3 process, and we're getting into some more of the hybrids after that.
Yeah.
Just bear with me one tick while I get back in there again. Again, if anyone's got any questions in the chat or anything, so we're starting to wrap up the safety chatter now. If any other draft questions or anything, get them in. We will answer them as we go along. I think Mark Marcus said he was surprised there were this many safety prospects in there. He goes, been listening but couldn't chat till now. Had no idea so many prospects for safety. There are. It's just there's no like outstanding upper tier, and that's where it affects it all. Well, there's like no middle tiery guys. Like you got Watts, you got. I mean, some people call Jade Barron a safety or corner or whatever, hybrids, but they're lacking the day 2 options. There's a lot of potentially really good day 2 options who'll go day 3, and then there's a couple of guys at the top. It's a bit of a higgledy-piggledy board, but there's still a lot of potential talent in this safety group. Others would be sort of considered hybrids. So who else have we not mentioned? So Billy Bowman Jr. we've not mentioned, but he has been absolutely rinsed in his postseason bits. I know he's smaller, 5'10", 192 pounds, but he's had a lot of problems with his offseason, specifically with his movement drills. Apparently they've not been great, and the RAS wasn't very nice to him either, although it rarely is to safeties. Upton Stout is listed as a safety. He's not. He's a corner. It's just because he's 5'8" and 180. But he's the next Amik Robertson, potentially. I mean, to be honest, that's not actually an unfair comparison. Amik Robertson played in the CUSA. Upton Stout plays in the CUSA. They're both undersized, but they're both crazily good. They're just picked on because, he's tiny. But tiny, there's positions for that in the NFL. I think Upton Stout will get drafted.
And 100%. I agree with the comparison as well. Like, we value those kind of guys. Like as you're saying, even if it is you play him in the Meek role where he's like Breakshaw's taking a slot anyway, but a slot guy, and then you teach him to play outside with a bit of technique because obviously he's going to be a bit of a step up. I'm happy with that, the range he's at. So on our board, again, we need to update it in some ways. 191. So again, that Bucks pick at the end of the end of 6th. Ripe and stout for that, and we're saying we need depth corners.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think there's any reason you could rule him out there. In terms of other guys, I'm not mentioning Shiloh. Shiloh's a UDFA, and I don't think he would fit with us either.
Yeah, no.
I don't think I'd want him in there. There are a couple of other options when you're sort of looking down into daily now. So Jonas Sanker, I know we've mentioned a few times. He's certainly going to give you some decent value
Yeah.
on day three. And to be honest, I think he may be underrated as well. So for me, like he's another very physical one, but he's actually very good when it comes to block shedding and stuff like that.
Yeah.
He's very physical, but he's very technically gifted in what he can do. And he's been on a team that's been completely and utterly rank
Crap. Yeah.
these last few years, and he's been standing out in spite of this team, and he's another who's got quite a lot of takeaways in college. His stuff is the athletic stuff. Like he is not the greatest athlete in the world, which may affect him at the next level. Like I think the 40 was quite slow from him, if I remember rightly, but he's potentially going to give you value on day three there. Jonas Sank, obviously ACC connection. You've seen him.
Yeah, I have. Like, I don't think we've played them this year. Might have played them last year. Let me look. I'm on his
You didn't play him
profile
this
to
year.
check.
I can remember all the
Definitely
teams that
didn't.
beat you this year.
That's not that hard. It's all of them but one. Come on. But looking back to last year. Well, he did pretty well against NC State when they played him. But yeah, it's just ACC guys they are good. Like they're underrated some of this stuff. So I know some ACC guys are going higher than they should. AC Thomas, for instance, but especially safety wise, there's some really undervalued ones. So Sanka for sure as a strong safety. Elijah Clark, who's the Syracuse strong safety. Okay, yeah, never really had a standout season. So his best one was last year.
I forgot the Cal one as well, haven't I?
Oh, Woodson, yeah.
Oh,
Craig Woodson, yeah.
He's been a great player. He's like a 4-year starter for them. But Craig Woodson actually, because I was thinking about doing the third player on him and I actually didn't.
Ooh.
But he's had a crazy good year. And
yeah, it's 88.5 in their step up against
that high.
Yeah, so he's gone from literally every improvement. So his first year, 135 snaps, 53.3 PFF grade. 2022, 858 snaps, 66.2 grade. 2023, 944 snaps, 72.3 grade. This past year, again, stepping up in a way to the ACC, 788 snaps, 88.5 grade, including 85.6 run defense, 84.1 tackling, 88.6 coverage. And just to make it even better, yes, he played it in week 4 against us in our 1 win. 69 snaps, 73.3 grade, 86.3 tackling grade because he did not miss a tackle. And I think let me just check. Was he the one that got the... No, it was later in the season got that. But yeah, just they had someone, I know, God, who was it? Jeff Risdon, his mock draft he put out yesterday, he had us picking him at 130.
See, that's funny because when we did our mock drafts on the college pod the other week, I had a Cal DB at 130 as well, but it was the other one. I said I would love to put Noel Williams in this lineup with us because Noel Williams is an absolute takeaway merchant, and he at his size as well. If we get a Cal DB on day 3, whether it be Noel Williams or Craig Woodson, I would be immensely pleased with that. Mm-hmm. I mean, Woodson himself did pretty good numbers this year. That Cal defensive back room was absolutely fantastic. But yeah, I did put Noel Williams at 130 in my mock there. So yeah, I think that will be quite good. But yeah, I'm sorry, Craig, that I forgot about you in regards to that. And then I think in terms of other safeties, Hunter Verler out of Wisconsin was once upon a time a big prospect, but he's gone right down boards this year. I think he's very scheme specific.
216.
Yeah, Raywan Lane, the Navy safety's had a horrible offseason. He was getting traction before this, but everything I've seen about him...
He's not even on our consensus board right now.
Yeah, he has fallen off the face of the earth as far as safeties go there. And then I think outside of that, there's not really much else. I think we've just about covered everybody.
But there's one there's one that you definitely know a lot more about than I will, and that's Kenny Gallup Jr., the safety out of Howard.
Oh God, the major like off-season stuff, which is always telling with these guys. But Kenny Gallup Jr. is a very I think he might have got like a Defensive Player of the Year award, but he got a whole bunch of sacks this year. They've started using him off the edge.
So three sacks this past year. So 10 pressures on 24 pass rushing snaps.
Yeah.
So 3 sacks, 2 hits, 5 hurries, which is pretty damn good, which is why he's got 76.2 PFF grade in that year. Like the one knock that PFF have on him is his coverage, which is even then 66.7. That's above average.
See, the game he had, he had a blinder against, I think it was, oh God, who did they play? They played Rutgers, because that was when me and Ryan were really interested in Rutgers.
Yeah.
He had a banging game against Rutgers.
13 tackles, 1 assisted, 3 run stops.
It's a safety.
4 targets for 3 reception, 19 yards, gave up a TD. But yeah, that's power 4 competition, 66.8 grade. Like
that's not bad.
That's not bad.
And Howard got railroaded by him, if I remember rightly.
Yeah. You got that. Tennessee State, 78.3 grade. Norfolk, which is one I've heard of, so that means they must be good. 80.5 grade. His worst one was against NC State Central at week 12. He had a 39.3 grade, but this is a guy who, since 2022, has played at least 550 snaps and is graded above 76 per PFF.
But I know he's another. And again, the HBCUs, they love their spur guys. They love the big safeties and then have him up as a linebacker, because I know he does. That's why he's got quite a lot of tackles. They do play him at linebacker a lot as well. Again, I go back to Marquise Bell, guys like that. He's in that mold. Yeah. But if I was me, I'd draft him. But teams just don't draft HBCU players for some reason, which I get really annoyed about. Hopefully Carson Vincent bucks the trend this year and gets himself picked. But Kenny Gallup Jr. should get picked as well.
Yeah. Like, and to be fair, if anyone's going to do it, might be the guy who, number 1, has done it before with James Houston, number 2, attended one himself.
Yeah.
Like, and where he's currently slated, so admittedly, again, our contested board definitely needs an update, but for us, he's the 183rd prospect. Mock draft database aren't as nice, admittedly. He is currently their 409th prospect. But again, 144 or 244, where it's basically I don't want to say throw away pick and then say draft him, but you get what I mean. That point where you don't really need to worry about what position you take. It's not about need. It's just get the best player available.
Yeah,
it would fit.
It would, and he's got a ton of accolades. I remember with a funny conversation with Gerald last year, because he's a voter on the Aeneas Williams Award panel for best defensive player or best player in HBCU football, and he won by a landslide. And we tried to ask him who he voted for, and he said he couldn't. But I think he gave a nod that he had. I think he certainly got him up for the award. Gerald was watching him years ago, so it's no mistake that he's come through as a good prospect. So again, I hope he gets drafted. Maybe if it's us, I would love it, but it's not something we've really done in recent years. So yeah, if you've got anything else you want to get off, any other questions you want to ask us before we get out of here, just let us know, because we're coming to the end of this roughly now. So we've been going a little while, but it's been good stuff. So I'll just highlight the next shows and the stuff while we're waiting, if there are any more out there. So in terms of next shows, College Podcast will be back later this week. As I said, we'll get you out of the draft circle for a little bit and take you away to spring training. We're going to be talking about some of the big news and stories coming out of the teams, coming out of spring training, what's happening with depth charts, where are interesting battles emerging, what's going on, and we've got a very new interesting head coach hire, Eddie George, we'll talk about. And of course, we will update you about the Lions Pro Day dealings as well. I've not had a chance to keep up to date where they've been at and who they're doing and what the stuff at the minute. But we'll go through all that for you. And then we'll be back on the main pod next week on Monday, where we will do another positional review show. Did we agree on doing defensive tackles? I think we're going to look
I
at the DTs.
think so, yeah.
Yep. So we're going to take a look at the big, dirty, nasty defensive tackles. That's who I like to do tape on. That's who I like to study. So yeah, we'll be back for that. We'll be talking DTs because of course we're not that far away. We're only 40 days from the draft now. So get ready for it. We're planning our big draft especial, getting all the guests ready and stuff. It's going to be a big show this year. So hopefully you'll be able to join us over some of draft weekend to come and enjoy the fun and see what goes on. That's going to be great there. And then outside of that, yeah, well, they're the upcoming shows for us. Obviously, if you want to find us anywhere over the internet, just type in Royal Lions UK, you will find us. We are the top hit when you type that in now. We weren't when this podcast started, but now we are. Little victories and all. Is there anything else you want to chat about this week before we get out of here? I need to let Matt know.
So, unfortunately for those, well, it's broke during the podcast. For those who are holding out hope for Cesar Jalari becoming a Lion, the Philly Eagles have taken a 1 year, $4 million deal. So, big suck to that. Unfortunately, we're going to have to look elsewhere.
And did I see you put something about a Mitchell Agude coming back as well?
Yeah, we've re-signed Mitchell Agude. My favourite random rotational piece at Sam is back. We've signed him despite him not being tendered as I think it was a restricted right free agent. We've let him test the market. We've brought him back. Contract details are currently undetermined. But yes, Mitchell Agude, the Sam/rush end, is back in Lions uniform for now.
Breaking news. I'll put it on the scroller for the next one. I didn't change my scrolling jokes today. I need to get some new ones going for the next show. Thank you to Marbarker for the $10 sticker. We really appreciate you guys. Great details. Appreciate you. Hope you've enjoyed the show. Hope you know a bit more about your safeties now. Carlton goes, is there much value for teams to trade into the first round just for the 5th year option? I mean, I don't know. I'll throw this one over to you first, Ash. What do you reckon? Is there value this year to be had trading into the first, or are you not so sure that the deals might be there?
It honestly depends on who, what, where is there. So I'm going to look at Sankophon because I've got them up for draft picks. Let's say, I don't know. So you get into, let's say that, I don't know, the Chiefs aren't happy with the state of the offensive tackle market at 31. They want to trade back, and for some stupid reason, let's say Tankofon's board's right and Ibuka and Luther Burden are both on the board, and one of the teams wants to trade up just to get their 5th year option on him, or the rumors are right and the Pittsburgh Steelers want to get Jackson Dart and want to do what their divisional rivals, the Ravens, did with Lamar Jackson. They want to trade up from. There is some value there. Would I do it personally for us? Let's say if someone forms, no. But if someone like the Raiders, the Pittsburgh Steelers want to trade back up, or the Giants Hill want to trade back up into the first to get their 5th year option on a QB after going elsewhere at the top of the first, there's some value there, which is good for us because that means we might be able to get down to the mid to late 30s and perhaps pick up a bit more value on an edge rusher. But yeah.
I'm not so sure. I don't know. I think today's news might have impacted it with a certain cornerback getting $30 million per year. The corner market has just exploded. So maybe teams are going to be looking at corners going, maybe we need that 5th year because this market's about to go crazy, especially when Source gets paid as well. I think the only trouble with that, though, is there's not many corner prospects at the back end of the first round in that area. So you're looking probably more the safety prospects, probably looking Xavier Watts territory. So, do you want to pay these guys? But I don't know. With the edge class being so deep, with the wide receiver class being, I think there's a good crop of round 1 wide receivers, and then there's a lot of good day 2 wide receivers. No one I'd jump up for. There's no quarterbacks I'd jump up for. There's no... I mean, the DTs might, someone wants Harmon or Nolan or someone like that. I think that's where your value might be, but I think there's not that many of them, so I don't know if teams will be willing to move out. I don't think there's a big trade there. Not like when the Saints came up for Peyton Turner, like all them
Oh
spots years
God,
ago.
yeah.
Like that deal was horrendous they came up for. I don't think there's a big trade-up option. I don't think there's going to be much value for me personally, but that's just because the prime positions are
Mm.
either there's not many of them and they'll be gone, or there's too many of them and you don't want to give your capital away because someone's going to try and extort. And to be honest, I don't want to trade back. We've got 7 picks. I don't want more than 7, unless you're sort of flipping picks and getting higher up the
Yeah,
list.
that's what I'd be aiming for. So I was just saying, for me, it would be like 28 and 244 for 36, and then a pick that's in that sweet spot between 130 and 196. Because admittedly, while I'm not going to be here on that show, I think I'll be in Northampton at that time, running around in the field like an idiot, probably. It just having to sit down, wait 66 picks in that sort of sweet spot. I want something there just for that value, because that's where Brad finds value. That's where Malcolm was. That's where James Mitchell was, which I know, yes, he's gone now, but that rookie year where he didn't drop a ball. Derek Barnes was in that range as well. I just want something there, because that's sort of from end of round 3 to the start of round 7 is where Brad does his best work.
I mean, just thinking about previous years as well, I don't feel like there's been that many towards the end of the first which have garnered significant value.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. I think
let me have a look at last year. Let me have a look at last year's, because obviously there was that couple of trades, wasn't there, for like Xavier, where like the Chiefs traded down and stuff. Where is it? Trades involving draft picks. Here we go. So, for instance, that's 28. So here we go.
so the Bills went up one spot for 141.
Yeah, so the Bills went, yeah.
But they had to give up 200.
True. Yeah, that. And then Kansas again traded back with Carolina. So that was first, so 32 and 200 for 33 and 144. 141, I mean.
So you're basically pick swapping 60 spots, really, aren't you?
Yeah.
I mean, to lose I'm not sure. And besides, we have need an edge this year, so I don't see us trading back and losing out on edges. If Brad doesn't bring in another edge now and he trades back in the draft and edges go in that meanwhile, the fan base will go toxic quickly. I'm not saying he's wrong. Obviously, I would never doubt the man, but I can't figure that we're going to dilute the board for ourselves any further. You've got to get a top guy here. I don't think anyone's worth missing out for, potentially. I don't know, just me. But is the value there? Maybe it is, but I don't think there's any value for us that would be worth it for me. You offer me an extra 4th-round pick, but I've got to lose out on my edge to get it. I don't think that's a fair trade.
Yeah, that's true. Like it's got to be the right situation, obviously. So
yeah,
well, dude. So yeah, for example, so Tankophon have us picking Grace Abel at 28, but then you look. Let's say we do trade back to 40. Let's say it'd be like the Landon Jacksons of the world at that point at edge. Well, actually, I say that Scouting forced to 54 in Tankophon, so maybe not the best. Sawyer 57.
We're in hot take season for mock drafts now. I saw PFF had Jackson Dart at 3, either yesterday or today.
They've released one today. I didn't see that.
I think the Titans traded down to 3 and then picked Jackson Dart, which probably for their point of view might not be the worst bit of business in the world. But there's no way Jackson Dart's a 3rd overall pick in a draft.
True. So it was, Titans trade down with the Giants. Giants get number 1. Titans receive 365. Giants 2026 1st rounder and 2026 3rd round pick. So that means that Abdul Carter falls to the Jets at 7.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Then Shamar Stewart goes to the Saints at 9 overall.
Good. Let them deal with that decision. They love making bad draft picks in recent years.
And then the Bears will break your heart. Donovan at 10 overall.
I mean, I'd be thrilled as hell for Donovan and the fact that they wouldn't get Gianti, but they seem locked into Gianti now, apparently. Apparently that's the big one. They want no one but Gianti, so Anywho, right. Unless there are any other comments. Otherwise, Carlton Wood goes, was hoping it's a gamble to get Scourton later than 28, but it's a gamble. Yeah. It's a gamble that I'm not willing to take the price on.
Yeah, exactly.
And then he goes, what, number 54 for Scourton? Like, if Scourton's there at 60, Brad wins the draft. But there's
Again.
a reason. There's a big red flag if he falls there, like a massive one. That'd be like when Owusu Koromoa dropped massively to the Browns in that area.
Oh, yeah.
Like
That was
he
just a
was.
size thing. Oh, God.
Jock
I
was the
remember
first.
that.
Yeah, Jock was the first, and we're there screaming, going, "Go get him!" Like he's still there. When one pick of ours went past, then the next one, then the next one. You're like, yeah, he's not getting him. And then the Browns just stumble into him, like just absolutely.
Poor guy.
Yeah, I don't know why. Stupid draft things. Anywho, appreciate you all for joining us this evening. Thanks to you, Ash, as well. That is your safety prospects for this draft. And I say we're getting up to DTs next week. So if you want to know about your defensive tackles, we're your place to be. And say the college pod will be later in the week talking spring training in college football if you want to get away from the draft circuit just for a little bit. So thank you all. Have a wonderful evening, and we shall see you again soon. One Pride.
One pride.
Recording stopped.